Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special Sunday presentation here at RCI TV. It's Cup versus GT4, but I don't think that is the best name for it. I am Jesse Lee, once again here with Ryan Mawson, and we have Christian on the cameras here with us today. And I cannot believe what we got going on here today. We've merged the splits, Ryan Mawson. We have a bunch of Cup cars. We have a bunch of GT4s. It's going to be a very interesting 75 minutes.
Yes, hello, and hello everybody. Welcome to a quite chilly for the area of Barcelona. And yeah, Cup versus GT4, the two opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to race cars. One with what people would call the engine in the wrong place, no traction control and minor ABS to save you, and the other ones are fully fledged GT4 cars. Apart from the people who have picked the Maserati just for that little extra challenge.
Oh dear, the Maserati. For those of you that may be joining us for the first time or may not be familiar with ACC, well, ACC has GT4 cars, and one of which, the Maserati, does not have ABS or traction control. Ryan Mawson, before we came to live pictures here, we were talking about how racing drivers are a special breed. I think those that choose to run races like this without any sort of aid, whenever it's provided to them, are that much more special.
Yeah, and there's sometimes certain drivers do just thrive under that pressure. You know, the people who can drive those cars and can modulate everything basically with their own body, with the foot, with the throttle. You can get some absolutely amazing results, but I tell you what, it's definitely not for me. And considering about amazing results, both those Maseratis are actually, so far, provisional pole and second place of the GT4 class. Not that far behind a Cup car, and considering a Cup car has a lot more power and a lot more speed in a straight line, that's not a half bad shout.
No, and besides the Maserati not having traction control or ABS, that doesn't necessarily make it slower. It only makes it a little bit scarier to drive, and that's just about it. The GT4 field is pretty nicely balanced indeed. You got a good mix of cars here today, and don't worry about all the Porsches up front. Of course, that is the Porsche Cup class, and we were supposed to have two splits today, but what they have done is to keep the race interesting. They have merged the two splits, so we basically have Pro and Silver in the Cup cars and Pro and Silver in the GT4 class, if I am to understand here today. And that's going to be a little bit of added difficulty to some of the faster cars and probably to some of the GT4s as well. 75 minutes, you can do a lot of lapping around here in that time.
Absolutely. It is quite a long lap time, especially in the GT4s. In the GT3 cars, you do actually blast around Barcelona quite fast. You got a really long, nice front straight, and this back straight that we're currently watching Mikael Jobsen go down. It really is over fast in a GT3. A GT4 car, though, you got plenty of time to think what you're going to do and maybe what you're going to have for tea by the time you've even got to turn one before you have to start going through the corners once again.
Yes, you can. And we're also talking about the Porsche Cup cars, how they will absolutely scream down this front straight. Am I right in thinking that a Porsche Cup car might actually be faster in a straight line than some GT3s?
Most likely. I mean, the Cup car has more power than the GT3 cars, and they have less aero. A lot of the times, you know, these Porsche Cups are what Porsche classes the entry to racing, but a lot of times, how people say is that some of the great drivers that we always see have come from Porsche Cup because they are so difficult to drive on the limit, and everyone in the real Cup, they're all spec series. Can't really change anything on them. It's just who is the better driver. So you see some phenomenal close racing, and if you can drive a Cup car incredibly fast, you can probably drive a GT3 car incredibly fast because they're just that little bit easier with the aids.
Well, qualifying coming up, practice officially done, and what's to come is, I think, about 30 minutes of qualifying, though I could be incorrect about that, and then a 75-minute race with every team, no matter what class or division you are running in, You have to do 1 mandatory stop, 1 liter of fuel required, no tire change required. But that being said, as we wait for the cool down between sessions, will anyone consider changing tires in 75 minutes? Your thoughts, Ryan?
It's a difficult one to play. I think part of it will be how hot the temperatures are on the actual race day. The Cups and the GT4s definitely will have enough fuel capacity. The Cup car is actually quite good on fuel. It's really amazing how little that car sips for how fast it actually can go. But the tires will definitely start wearing after at least 60 minutes around here. 75 is just pushing that little bit much. And in the GT4 car and the Cup cars, where your only grip is through the tires, you have no traction control to save you. It might not be out of the question that a few of these drivers are going to take the tires just to keep their race nice and safe.
Well, there you have it. Well, it is a 30-minute session, folks at home. And just to make it a bit more easy to understand, the first 15 minutes for the GT4s and the final 15 minutes are for all of the Cup cars. And that is how qualifying is going to shake out today. Now, usually we have a sort of a steward or a moderator in the race that is sort of controlling this. I don't know if we have that today. Of course, this is a very special Sunday edition of RCI TV, but either way, I think they understand the rule set.
Well, you would hope so. It's everyone's being told now you got to be on your best behavior as people start filing out onto it. Ryan Fulcher, a very nice bright GT4 that we'll be able to pick up on our broadcaster. Might actually be it's one of the first few cars to set a provisional lap time. I think there's a couple more GT4s in front, but it's a long old lap around here. Nice temperatures for it though. 26 track. It will be a bit kinder to those tires over the 70 minutes.
Yes, it will. And I think a lot of people will take that reprieve and probably take that into consideration with their pit stop today, as all of our GT4 competition cars come out and try to set their quickest laps. They have 15 minutes to do so. And of course, all flying laps, whenever the clock strikes 15 minutes left, will count, of course. But at that point, the the Porsche Cup cars will be released. And here is one of the Pro GT4 cars. You can tell that they are a Pro GT4 car simply because they have a white background for the number and a little blue little marker in the corner.
And it's Giorgio Magazi for the RDR team who will take our first flying lap. We'll see what provisional pole will be in the Aston Martin, flying down the front straight, giving everything with that V8 turbo. Interesting car, the Aston Martin. We only have a few more in the field today, but it's basically the same as the Mercedes. In fact, we have one car the same, but those are shared platform cars, which is sort of interesting to see nowadays. A lot of manufacturers doing this, but it will translate over into the racing because they have to run what their road cars are in real life as well. Long old swooping corner is turn 3 and 4 as well. It really sort of pushes you as a driver because you want to get on the power so early, but if you dare do that, that front end will wash out and you will just be into the realms of invalidating lap times.
Yeah, turn 3 here at Barcelona has taught me the very meaning of the word patience. And it's all about knowing the exact point where you can start getting back into the throttle and drifting all the way to the left side using all of the runoff room. And this track is definitely what you would say is either you love it or you hate it. And I think most people, though, would agree with me when they say that they prefer the GP, the bike GP circuit here instead of the one with the additional chicane. I do very much miss the sweeping final turn here.
Yeah, that chicane, it just sort of, at least for me, having driven here a couple of times, it just kills all the flow of the last sector. A lot of this track is, you know, patience, late apexes, blind crests, and then you have this chicane, which is just sort of clumsy, and you have to really be careful on those curbs. But Magazi navigating it masterfully, not taking too much curb in the GT4. Although you can, it will upset your lap time as he races up to the line, and that is a 1:53.4, the current time, but I think there's still plenty of time to be found there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. I think that's just an opening lap, a nice methodical opening lap before you really get on it. And why not? And everybody else coming across the line, Banana coming through, it ended up being third. Ostrich coming through in the 444 Maserati, 1.2 off the pace of the Pro GT4 car. This man right here, Ryan Fulcher, getting 2.7 off the pace, and the number 25 Aston. That's where they cycle through. A couple of cars still waiting to come to the line. Lamone here in the 13, going to come up. What do they have, perhaps, in the Jim Power 13? And that will slot them into 7th right now. Kolovaz in the, what appears to be the number 3 car. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on right now, Ryan. They'll be down in 9th. Vondra comes up 7th now, dropping Lamone down to 8th. And even so, for a nice paced lap, Magazi, that was still quite good.
Yeah, as a first out, it's really good. The thing on GT4s you have to mind as well, which will not really be, it is a help and a hindrance, the cold temperatures today, because these cars, unlike the GT3s, do not come with tire warmers. They are coming out of the pits with basically icicles for tires. You've got to be super methodical. You have to warm them up gently. You have to break everything in evenly, then start pushing, because if you push too early, you will grain them. And in a GT4, once your only source of grip is gone, that mechanical grip that you have through the tires, they really start to suffer pace drop, which is why I think some of these teams may take tires in the stop. And Ostrich coming through the final chicane must be incredibly difficult in that Maserati. The curbs and the camber will really want to lock up those front wheels on that car with no ABS. And it will be an improvement for him, P3, until he gets bumped down, actually. Kolovas in the number 3, who we mentioned earlier was a while back, takes provisional pole with a 52.8.
Well, there you go. You have the AM class out here getting it done. Vondra comes back across the line of 57.366 down in 11th place. But for Kolovaz there, nice lap indeed. And again, there's nothing that says a pro or a silver driver cannot defeat any of the other teams here today. Of course, the way that everybody is classified is very simple. They're classified by not only pace, but their help me here, Ryan. What's it? Their pace, but also consistency. That's it. I woke up this morning without my brain, apparently. But yes, it's also about consistency, and maybe that will definitely show itself in a longer race like this. Of course, most GT4 races we do around here are not 75 minutes. They are quite a bit shorter. I can only think of a few endurance races, in fact, that had GT4s in them that were even longer, that were even about an hour. So this being 75 minutes, a completely different challenge. As Sazcola comes across the line, the 146 Maserati, and nearly gets to the top, 4/10 off of the overall pace, but a 52.4, 52.5 rather, will do very nicely indeed.
Yeah, and especially in that car where it is so hard to get those lap times, that is a really good lap. Banana coming back up to the line, an improvement up to 53.592, back into the 4th place, hunting down that Aston, hoping for any amount of slipstream, which in a GT4 would actually help down the line, and looks like they're actually going to back off that lap. And that is the other problem. The other problem in this circuit, spacing is key.
It's just a big old car, that Chevrolet, isn't it? Just a absolutely menacing looking car, completely different than all of the other low slung sports cars and Grand Tours.
Yeah, it is. It's a very different beast when you've got it in the mirror as well. It absolutely fills them, especially if you're in a little car, say the Ginetta or the KTM or anything of one of the really small cars. You're almost in the Camaro's blind spot at the end of its bonnet. It's like you could run over a little Ginetta and not really notice you've done so.
Well, I tell you one thing, I was watching the Thursday GT4 championship that you call, Ryan, and I was watching some of the mid pack runners, one, of course, being Amir Thacker. And I was watching his stream, and every time Tom Bryant, by the way, a RCI member of ours, staff member of ours, he came up behind Thacker, and all Amir said was, "I really don't like that Chevy being in my mirror," and certainly took up every single one of them. It's very menacing. I think that is the best word for it, as the 146 goes quicker still, just about 3/10 or so off of the overall pace. Kolovaz is back into the pit lane now, has parked the leading Porsche.
Yeah, for now, but will they go out? They still have another around about 5 minutes left of the GT4 qualifying, and then we swap over to GT3s. Zostruch does improve as well. 53.499 puts them up into P4. A little bit off the pace, but very, very close to Magazi in that 34 Aston Martin. So I think there's going to be quite the interesting battle forming in the race if these drivers can keep that pace, because that's the other half of what we were talking about, the difference between pro and silver class. The consistency is one of our factors that we take into account. And in a GT4 car, it is even harder to be lap on lap consistent. They're quite a different beast to drive. At over 70 minutes, it's really going to show up the drivers who can and cannot be consistent.
Well, everybody resetting to the pit lane here, trying to get one more run at it, I would imagine. I want to see if Kolovaz comes back out after that. I wonder if they're proud enough of that lap that they will not exit the pit lane again. We will have to see about that, of course. But for Magazi, Giorgio Magazi does not want to have to start this race third, especially behind Silver and Am drivers. I wouldn't expect him to take that very lightly, and isn't trying to make up the time here. Again, got some time left. Not the quickest lap in the world, a GT4 around here, but still a very good opportunity, 2 or 3 more laps for Magazi to get this lap in. And potentially, it has to pick up a lot, though. That is quite a lot of time to have to pick up, but I've seen Magazi do harder things.
Oh, absolutely. It might actually be as well. The other thing that we do have to consider is the GT4 cars. Obviously, they run, they're sort of entirely set of bop, and how we know, a lot of times we can tell at RCI what car will do what. We always have a vague understanding, and I like to think I have a vague understanding of the GT3 field. The GT4 cars, I have not a clue what car is better at what circuit. So it might be that the Aston Martin is just that little bit more tricky to drive here, but I don't know for sure. All I do know for sure is that the Aston Martin's happy track is Kyle Army, because it's about a second quicker than anything around there.
Just about 3 or so minutes left in qualifying for the GT4 field, and then it will be the Porsche Cup field turn for the final 15 minutes. Of course, all flying laps will count, as you might expect for these guys. Some work to do for some of these middle of the pack drivers, and a lot of time left on the table for the likes of right around 8th back to about 11th, 10th or 2 can dramatically change your starting position, as Sam Rambo there goes a little bit sideways trying to navigate the corners. GT4 is not the most difficult cars to drive, but they are very fun. Well, you can get up on the wheel and drive the absolute heck out of them, and that's not something you can do. You can't play around with a GT3 quite the way you can a GT4.
I know GT4s are very mechanical car. Sam Rambo
Oh,
abandons the lap. Was obviously
oh,
quite furious at going wide at the last, possibly quite high up on his delta, but just losing it at the end. And like we said, Jesse, patience is key around this track, and just getting on the throttle too early for the last corner will do it. So that is the end of Sam Rambo's qualifying. There won't be enough time to have another lap for him.
that's certainly a way to go out. We've seen a lot of drivers share their frustration in a very similar way. There's sometimes that we guess, don't we, about what a driver's thinking or feeling when they do stuff like that. We really don't have to guess what they're feeling. Some expletives certainly going on in the cockpit of that car, and that will, like you said, end their sort of hunt there. Well, it was not an improvement for Magazi, though I think that might have been an outlap or just a slow lap in general, and this will be the final time for Magazi to try and improve, and Kalavaz is sitting in the pit lane, happy with the 52.086, and why not? It is the mark to beat.
Very much. And well, last lap for Magazi. He'll be watching that relative. He knows what he has to achieve, but can he do it on the last final lap? We're actually cooling off here as well as the sun sets here at Catalunya. 19 now, so it's just getting even colder. Be great for the cup cars though, with those engines. They really love the cold air, and the speed that these cars can get down the straights is just immense for them. But looking at it, it does look like so far that Magazi is actually down on his delta through sector 1, just losing a bit of time. So unless he has it all in the last sector, really depends for a driver where the time is on their lap. I don't think he's going to get it. I think that Kalavaz, who set that lap early, might just be able to hang on to it.
Yep, everybody abandoning their lap. Barzaghi coming into the pit lane after a successful challenge up into third place. Magazi back down into fourth. And look at this fella. Look at this fella right here in Porsche Cup. I did not know that Tyler Jason LaValle was in this race until about a minute ago. We had 19 cars, folks at home. You eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed this. We had 19 cars at the end of practice, and now we have 23. Some of the teams arriving a bit late. The Porsche Cup teams, anyway, arriving a little bit late. Tyler Jason LaValle, one of those, but they have been released from pit road, as nearly everybody is now exiting pit road to do their lap. And of course, the GT4s are entering pit road following their qualifying run. But keep an eye on PSR's Tyler Jason LaValle. He is going to be one of the ones that I'm looking at here, Ryan. Anyone that you are particularly interested in here?
I think pretty much that. Jason LaValle, we've seen him plenty of times in our Night Owl that me and you have commed on. But really fantastic drive. He came into the championship as a silver driver, had an amazing run in the Porsche, and is now running around in the he ran around last season as a pro Audi and still did. You know, we had some great battles with him. Be interesting to see how he handles the Porsche Cup car. I've never seen him in one, and often we see it takes a very different driver, doesn't it? We always see the same drivers in the Cup cars, like your James Parker and your Mike Nobles and people like that. So let's see what Tyler Jason LaValle can do in the Cup, as he will be the first to set the provisional pole down the straight. And once again, look at the speed difference versus those GT4s.
Absolutely cooking it down the front straightaway. And we do apologize. Ryan and I have made a bit of a discovery here that Kalavaz is in the AM class for Porsche Cup and left with the GT4s, probably not realizing that there were two different classes. So that's it's a bit unfortunate for them. There is no live stewarding, and like I had feared, because there is nobody on the racetrack on the ground sort of babysitting, if you will, there was bound to be some confusion, but in my opinion, no harm, no foul.
Nah, there was only one car that managed to do that. So that actually shuffles it around a little bit. Gulliver's obviously having setting the first time for the Cups, the 52 to beat. It's Tyler Jason LaValle fighting at the wheel there, just touching the grass a little bit. You can see how skittish these cars are. It wants to rotate without rear engine, but you've got to tell it no. You have to point it where you want to drive, not where it wants you to drive. But that means that actually the 146 will be the pole for GT4 class in the Maserati. So a difficult car to drive, but yielding great results.
Yeah, we talked about that as qualifying was starting. SCOA just showing us what is possible in a Maserati. Just because it is going to be more difficult to drive doesn't mean that it's any less fast. And there you go, out qualifying the number 2 of Barzaghi there. And Magazi will be on the starting 3 for the GT4 crowd. But what does Tyler Jason LaValle have for Porsche Cup? Straight to number 1 of 49.572 as Radu goes what will eventually be 3rd, and Scott all the way to the top of the board of 47.649 is the quickest lap, and that was an absolute flyer.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw the 935 of Jala Jason LaValle. There's just a couple of twitches which will obviously hurt your time. So I'm expecting that car will really start to climb. And what can Olefe do? Another name that we know in the 308, running his privateer team in that nice sort of gunmetal grey Porsche Cup, coming up to the line, and he will go a provisional pole. A 46.4. That is on fire, that car. We'll have to tell him to slow down with the front end glowing.
I got to tell you, it may be Sunday. It may be a one-off race. And keep in mind, folks at home, this is not a championship. This is a one-off race, and it's just for fun. But some of these teams not playing around. Leffe not playing around at all. 46.419. That is getting up there. Will anybody be able to challenge that? Lap time, we're going to have to find out, as looks like Canada's own LaValle very slow there, perhaps trying to either find position or back off, fiddle with some stuff in the car, and now back on it. Back down to 3rd is LaValle, 3 seconds off of the pace, and that will do him no good running wide there. But I suspect he had already invalidated his lap or was cooling off his tires, one of the two. Oh no, he's coming back into the pit lane, so that's why he was off the pace on the back half of the circuit. These are not off the pace. Radu, who is actually towing another car down the straightaway, it will be an improvement, but will get immediately beaten by McConnell. I'm assuming that's McConnell there in the 105, who towed all the way down the straightaway and improved on his lap time all the way up to 3rd.
Yeah, that's so far the leading AM car, but what I have a feeling with Tyler Jason LaValle dipping into the pits will probably be start to pressure changes, because if you look now that the sun has gone down and we're starting to get into the night time, the temperature has just dropped off. We're now all the way down to 13, so those tires are going to be getting quite cold now. So I think a couple of teams coming in, quickly readjust the pressures, go back out. You still have 8 minutes, which in a cup car is a bit of a faster time, but you can't waste it too many times. You got to get those tires up to pressure still.
Well, I got good news and bad news.
Oh, here we go.
What do you want first?
Well, should we go for the good news? Oh, it's
the good news is everybody's going to get a second attempt to qualify.
And the bad news?
We are going to have to restart qualifying. Some things were out of place, and Tom Bryant knocked on the door and has let me know that they are going to have to restart the session. They're going to forward qualifying or follow forward practice once everybody is into the session and go straight back into qualifying here. So, well, that's good if you had a bad qualifying, perhaps didn't get your lap in. That's bad if you were, on the front row of whatever class you were in. But either way, a technical gremlin has cropped up, and we will need to go back to qualifying, start from square one. Where's your mindset here, Mawson? I know that you've had to deal with this before. You've done your qualifying effort. You were in the groove, and now all of a sudden, the stewards have told you, well, now you got to do it all over again.
Yeah, well, if you're someone like Magazi in that Aston Martin that we just saw having a slight struggle just off the pace of the Maseratis, it's great for him. He gets another shot, and for the Maseratis, they've got to do it all again. But yeah, I've been in this situation before. It is a funny one, but the way I see it is you know what you did in qualifying, you know what you did well, and sometimes you know what you've taken away that is bad, and you can actually work on it. You get another shot, don't you? And sometimes for the lap time, you always just run out of time with these 15-minute sort of quick fires, don't you? You always think, oh, I had loads of time there, but I just couldn't get it. So yeah, actually, I think it's a bit of a blessing for some drivers.
The most ringing time that ever happened to me was I'm 3/4 of the way around on a lap at the Nürburgring and get told that, hey, by the way, we're going to have to reset the session. The entry list isn't correct. And I'm 3/4 of the way around the Nürburgring. I'm on the Nordschleife, and I'm up 4 seconds on my time. I'm trending towards pole in class. I'm pretty happy. I'm stoked, and I get told, yeah, but it doesn't count. We ended up qualifying 7th in that race after qualifying, and I was fuming for about 5 hours after that. I was absolutely livid. But that's a completely different story. I think, though, the pressure is on as practice has been restarted. I'm told by Tom Bryant that this will be forwarded once all the cars are in the pit lane, and we will be forwarded back to qualifying here. But absolutely fuming I was. But I think these drivers are more relieved, some of them, due to how the qualifying shook out, especially the one that we saw slam the car into the wall. They will be happy to have another go of it, but that will not be any solace to the ones at the top. They will have to go out there and do it again, and that is where the pressure lies. And folks, there is not a feeling like that in the world where it'd be like having to take 2 penalties in the same shootout. It's the only thing I can relate it to. It's like you've done your one and you've got it past the keeper, and now you've got to do it again. It's like, oh, don't know if I'd want that pressure, Ryan.
No, it will be difficult, especially in the cup cars. But as he says, for some of them that had just a terrible qualifying, it will be a blessing and a curse. What will be interesting to see is, can the Maserati do it again? We saw that 146 absolutely flying in first quali, and can the driver do it again?
Banter Blue in chat, who is, I think, RCI's biggest fan at this point, to be fair. Banter Blue says, well, at least now I didn't miss anything.
Well, yeah, exactly. Do not retune your TV sets, ladies and gentlemen. We are just going to do it again.
All you missed was Ryan and I blithering on about racing drivers and adenoids and the old Volvo and the normal stuff that Ryan and I talk about. So, rather than that, definitely didn't miss anything in qualifying now, as we will reset and get going here once again. And as free practice does end and everybody reconnects here, just a reminder, it's a 30-minute qualifying session, 15 minutes for all of the GT4s, the final 15-minute for the Porsche Cups, and we have Pro, Silver, and AM for both of those categories. So technically speaking, Ryan, we have 6 classes in the same race.
Yeah, very much so. But with so little people in each class, sometimes I think a lot of the times the drivers will just treat it as overall. It don't matter what class you're in, is it? If you're in front of you, then it's a position going for it.
Blue ask, how's Olga there, Ryan?
Oh, I've been actually doing more work on the old 144 today, and modifying cars and classic cars. You love them and you hate them, don't you? Most of my day has been spent getting very, very itchy with heat wrap all over my hands, shouting at
Oh,
carburetors that don't fit because my car dares to be a right-hand drive, and most things were made for left-hand drive. Then the parts that I was supplied with, I've never seen this, so I got new engine mounts supplied. They are an M11 thread. Who stocks M11 nuts? They're either M10s or M12s. They're not YM11 guys, but nope, they are M11. So
might I suggest they're Swedish?
I don't know. They're weird, and well, I first thought they were Imperial because the car is old enough, but no, I discovered that that wasn't the case, and yeah, they didn't supply me with nuts, so then I had to go and get some, and it's been interesting. But we're almost back. I think, give me another week or two, and I'll be saying we're back on the road. The one thing I have bought now, though, after what happened the first time to that car, is a fully electric race fire extinguisher kit. So I have now a great big red fire button, and that is the oh god, problems are happening.
That's the chicken in the driver's seat is roasting button, and you know, time to deploy the old fire. Do you not call it a fire bottle?
Well, the call I think it's called a plumbed-in fire suppression system, technically, at least what they call it in England. But if it was just a handheld bottle, we just call it a fire extinguisher.
Well, there you have it. There, that's the Olga update. I quite like an old Volvo. We've been over this before. I don't know why. The 242s, the 240s, just lovely cars, and even before that too as well. Volvo Amazon. Oh my goodness.
Well, they were very weird because they were. I know quite a few American friends that say the same, and they were like a staple of American suburbia back in the 60s.
Weird, right?
There was always one that was dawdling around. Same in England, there was always one person dawdling around with a Volvo, generally like a retired bank manager or an old guy or someone who had a bit of money, because they weren't cheap. They were very expensive back in the day. You were basically buying a car that you knew was going to last 30 years, rather than buying like a Jaguar for equivalent money, which had a lot of shiny wood and fanciness, but you know for a fact that that car being built by a British manufacturer would die within maybe 3 or 4 years.
Oh dear, I gotta say, we in America back in the day, we went from loving the tiny British sports cars, you know, your Healey's, your Spitfires, etc., to going on this Japanese kick, small cars, obviously with the oil crisis being the way it was, and people forget though that before all that, we had a weird affinity for what I would refer to as shed-built cars, but they're not. They're you know, they're like your Volvos and stuff like that, and small Italian cars as well. And they're still here because, well, the Italian ones are they all have electrical problems, mind you, but most of the Volvos are still here, and you can get them fairly cheap in okay nick, not perfect obviously, but it's crazy. All the British cars I think just sort of rusted away, but the Volvos and stuff like that are still here. You can still find old Mercedes as well from that time period. Qualifying restarted here again. 30-minute session. GT4 is going out first for the first 15 minutes, and everything has reset. Now, do we think the GT4 Pro drivers, as denoted by the white number backgrounds with the blue bottom corner, are going to fare better this time? The best they could manage was second and third last time.
Yeah, that is the million-dollar question for Bazaghi and the. In fact, we are actually missing the other Aston Martin. If you look, we only have the number 2 actually reconnected.
Yeah, being told in chat too that something went wrong with the reconnection process, and indeed it has. We had 23, and now we're down to 20. So don't know what is perhaps going wrong in the back end, and we can only apologize. We're as clueless as anybody else, but we definitely would have preferred to have more cars on the grid.
Well, for Bazaghi, that means that at least one of his rivals is gone. So now what he's got to do is he's got to try beat that 146, that Maserati that was showing amazing pace in the first qualifying. And can they do it again?
Yes, indeed. Well, it is all on them. They will have known now that one of their rivals is not here and that they will need to go ahead and try and do the best they can. Of course, this is a one-off, so there are no points. There is nothing other than the win. And if you are a pro GT4 driver, you expect to be the overall GT4 winner. Well, how often have we seen that not be the case?
Oh, plenty of time. Like, especially Night Owl, that I will always remember. We've had some of the silver drivers really show what they're made out of, and it's been a lot of times the win hasn't been for a between pro class cars, it's between two silver cars. But that is just sometimes how it goes. As we say, pace is not, or your class in RCI is not denoted by your pace. It's how consistent you are and what your race pace is. We have a handy little guide in our Discord for that. If you're curious about joining and you're wondering what your pace might be, what split you fall in, we have a guide for that. As Bazaghi crosses the line, but that was an invalid lap. So that was a 155 was his last. And Jacobsen, back in the 79, takes provisional pole with that 55 and immediately knocked off by that big banana.
Oh dear, Team Banana back at it again. And 54.297, the time to beat. Mikov nearly gets in there, 7/10 off the pace. But here's Ostrich all the way back, a 53.808 for the triple for Maserati. And that is going to be the mark to beat by, I think that's a Fordzilla affiliated car. In fact, that triple for Maserati.
I believe both of them are. The 146 and the 444, I believe, are both Fordzilla cars. Obviously, they tell the drivers that you may race, but you must pick the difficult route. You have to push yourself as a driver.
That does not surprise me one bit. Ryan Fulcher comes to the line, gets 5th place, currently bottom of the AM cars, but nevertheless has a bunch of laps left to do. 10 minutes in qualifying left for the GT4 cars, as Victor Vondra here will certainly be wanting to improve upon their lap, quite off the pace indeed. Sola here now getting it done. The 146 back to the pole position, as you might expect. Fordzilla 1-2 here. All of a sudden, a 238 by the 146. Absolutely getting it done now.
Yeah, and what we can sort of only assume now, looking at the times that we had in first quali and now this one as well, is that the Maseratis do seem to be incredibly strong. It's a very weird car to drive, though, because it drives a lot like an old style touring car, I would say. It's very big, very heavy, does not change direction very well, but it does have the most downforce of any of the GT4 cars, just without those aids. And the funny thing that I always found is when people ask the real life team, they said, well, what do you do if it rains? To the real life Maserati team, and they said, we don't race. So if you've done practice, done qualified pole, and then the race, it buckets it down, well, they wheel the car back into the garage and call it good.
Well, here comes Vondra back around. That lap was a bit better for Victor Vondra, but it is quite a bit off of the pace. Now, we do have a Porsche Cup car out there going around. That's the 48.828. They're not supposed to be out there, mind you, the Porsche Cup team. Dylan should be in the pit lane waiting, but they have went out anyway, and we are ignoring that lap time currently simply because this is supposed to be GT4 qualifying. And here is your provisional pole sitter, the 146 of Scola, getting it done right now over Berzaghi in the number 2, just about a second between the two of them, and that's a big old gap.
especially in the GT4 cars. Normally GT4s, that becomes even closer. It becomes so difficult to sort of pull away from someone, because in GT3s the cars are so different, and in GT4s they all seem to bunch up
Oh,
together. And that is the banana aborting the lap. Into the gravel
I
they go.
I don't think the Pineapple Racing Club Banana was meaning to do that. I think they got a little bit too much input into it and then exited stage right.
I think so. They applied too much of the applied too much of that big V8 displacement.
Too much freedom, and I
Yeah,
think it went off. Yes,
it's far too much to handle for that, and it had to go and calm down in the gravel for a moment.
indeed, indeed. Oh dear, you have to forgive us. We are but children as well. I always said racing drivers are just grown up children, and to be fair, we're no different, right?
No, especially when you and I have also done our fair share of racing. I mean, I don't think any of us has grew up. As it says, we were mentioning before the stream what happens when you are racing, and sometimes when you're bored. I've been plenty of times lapping around, just singing things to myself, like in the Chris Hay endurance season that we also broadcast here. What you can't see is that every time they passed my GT4 at one point, I think into my second or third hour on my own, and I was just singing Self-Preservation Society driving around.
Oh dear. Is that the mini advert? The
That it
Self-Preservation
is, but
Society?
yes, but I thought it was quite apt for being in a GT4 while all the GT3s are whizzing round. It was just my friend was asking, "What are we doing for the strategy of the race?" As self-preservation, and it sort of went from there.
I think anybody that's not British that's watching this is wondering what we're on about at this point. But Sam Rambo comes across the line, slots into ninth place, third in GT4 AM, as the 146 does continue to lead, and we have just lost the 2 car of Sola has left the building all of a sudden. So that reinstates the 1-2 for Fordzilla, the 146 and the 444. And that lap not any better for Ostrich, as they go about 5/100 slower on that lap, and still maintains a 1.1 second gap, does the 146. What does Victor Vondra have? A little bit of improvement, perhaps. Nope, not on this occasion. Fastest lap of 55.515, and that was a 55.9.
Yeah, and that's what we also started to mention earlier, is that the GT4 cars, consistency, driving these cars consistently all the time over such a long race with the 70 minutes will be tricky. They are much less forgiving than the GT3 cars, and it is so easy to just have one small mistake and then you find yourself where you've lost half a second easily, and you can't really regain that with pure speed. But Sazcola still trying to find any amount of improvement. That lap was not to be. Once again, they're around about a couple of hundredths slower, but they've still got just a little bit of time. And for this man, Sam Rambo, who we saw throw it into the wall at the end of qualifying 1, was obviously not happy with it. It gives him a little bit of chance to redeem himself. A little bit loose coming out of the last corner, but it doesn't matter. Up to P2 in GT4 AM with a 54.930.
Well, I'm glad he redeemed himself, because I talked a lot of crap in between the restart and now that it was going to be Sam Rambo's moment to potentially get something done, as the 444 spins off there. And I think that was obviously unintentional, but a product of the Maserati's handling characteristics there.
That is very much the Maserati driving experience, where if the car has started to go, it's pretty much gone. You've already lost it. By the time you've realized you've lost it, it's too late. But it seems that if you can tame the wild beast, you can get great results out of it. But with that, how difficult it is, 70 minutes, it's going to be a long old time to be be that on it and modulate the throttle and the brakes.
Sam Rambo through the dirt there. Not quite getting the corner right, but after their previous lap, they are second in class in the AM field. Well, we only have, matter of fact, I just realized that we don't have any GT4 Pros left. We had 2 or 3. The restart, I think, ate one of them at least, and now the other one has retired as well. So there are no Pros. So we have 5 classes here with GT4 Silver and AM. You can determine that a car is a GT4 by the blue bottom right corner, and you can tell if it's a Porsche Cup car because it has a green bottom right corner. And of course, silver is a silver number plate, and AM, of course, is red, and Pro is white. The number 1 Porsche is a Porsche Cup car that left the pits a little bit too early, ran a lap, and came back into the pit lane. Jack Meekov
He smash it over the curbs, my son. And out onto the straight. What can Jack Meekov do? Currently pole for GT4 AM. Not an improvement this time, 55-1. And will that be challenged by Walter Lamon in the Audi? Once again, not this time, just around. It is so difficult in these GT4s to be that consistent lap after lap. Still got about 1 more lap to go if he so wishes, but it kind of looks like that the Audi 13 was backing off there down the straight, possibly just having an in-lap and calling it there.
Blue in chat says that Skoa is scary fast and always drives the Maserati as far as they know. Well, I would tend to agree.
Yeah, I mean, for someone to be that fast in the Maserati, you have to know that car. You have to know all of its ins and outs. And well, I know I drove the I drove the Maserati in a. Basically, I lost a bet at we bet on race cars for big endurance races for Le Mans and such, and I lost because Rebellion couldn't make a car that hot started. So I had to drive
Wow. Just straight up calling them out, huh?
Yeah, I was so fuming because I was leading by about 2 points over my fellow admin over there, and it was like, yes, I'm going to do it. It's looking good. Rebellion pulled in for a pit stop, and the car never starts again. And I was, my head was in my hands. So because I then had to drive the Maserati for an hour and a half at a wet Paul Ricard, and I only had 1 puncture, but by the end of it, I was. Let's say there was a few sanity points lost there.
I gotta say, that's a bet that I would probably take as well. All the car has to do is run, and for Rebellion, it's not a good marketing campaign, is it? If your car doesn't run that well and you're selling watches, what's the one thing you need your watch to do? Run.
It needs to be on time. And that will be the last runners for GT4. Now it's time for the Cup cars, the absolute rocket ships to take to the track.
Yes, indeed. Sam Rambo, by the way, did improve on that lap and got within a 10th of Meekov for the AM pole. It did not come to pass, though, but quicker still, and that was the end. Actually, yes, Rambo will be coming around this time to pull it down the pit lane, I suppose. Unless, to be quite honest with you, I didn't see if he got to the line in time. But either way, like you said, the Porsche Cup cars are on their flying lap at this time, as they are actually playing leapfrog now a little bit. Nobody wants to be out in front. I think they're all trying to do that tactic. They saw how well it worked in the first faux qualifying. If you're second in line, you're going to get a little bit of suck.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Monza qualifying strategy, is that you've got to hook up behind someone, not be too close that you catch them in the corners, as per se, but we'll do it. And that's that is Johan Kraz into the wall, even before his flying lap. And well, that is very much the Porsche Cup. you've got to get everything heated up. You've got to get everything sort of set and ready before you start just yamming on the loud pedal, because it will bite you, will this car?
You know, it's interesting. ACC is a game about GT competition, and a GT car is supposed to be sort of malleable and drivable and comfortable, and they are. But what we have been given is the gift of several other cars in series, like the Lamborghini Rex, like the Porsche Cup car, like the Maserati, that aren't as easy to handle. And you can just get that feeling that this is a Kuno's game. And the reality sets in that, especially for me, every time I get behind the wheel of one of these hard to drive cars, that I'm not as good of a driver as I think I am sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of the GT3 cars are their whole thing, their whole sort of business motto, as your were. As much as we like to think, racing is not a business, at the end of the day, it is. They have to be able to be driven by your customers, because that is a big chunk of your input. In the same way that the GT2 cars, the new GT2s that were debuted at Monza, they have been really focused on customer racing. So as much as we like to see, the drivers, it's all the drivers' skill and etc. back in the day and all that. They do have to think about who their customer base is. But the Porsche Cups, meanwhile, that is just a single make cup, so they don't have to appeal to anyone. If you want to do the cup class, then you end up over there, and that is where some of the great drivers that we've seen have come from.
Can you explain GT2 to me really quickly? I've seen them, but I don't know what the difference between them and anything else is.
GT2 is, it's kind of weird, because the numbering system that we've always been used to, especially back in the day, was that the lower the number, the faster. Like the GT1s and the old GT2 cars used to be rocket ships that flew around at Spa.
700 plus horsepower cars, as Leffe goes to the pole. 46.452, you were saying?
Yes, but the GT2 cars, they have more power than the current GT3s by about 100 horsepower, but they have less aerodynamics, but a little bit better electronics. So the idea is that they're slower over a lap, but they are easier to drive. And that is the 814 taking a bit of a tank slapper out of the last chicane. Welcome to the Porsche Cup experience, the pendulum of death. As soon as the rear end starts swinging with the engine hanging out of the rear, it's one way, it's the other way, and you're backwards.
So you're telling me a GT2 has more power than a GT3, but is slower?
Yeah, think of it as it's like a Porsche Cup car, but not. Like for these cars, they have more power than the GT3s, but they have less downforce, less aerodynamics.
Right.
The GT2 kind of follows that philosophy, so it's weird. As it says, over a lap, they are slower, but they have more power, so they would be faster in a straight line, just about.
I see. So it's like an American car in the 90s. Got it. Makes perfect sense to me. Leffe leads, Scott leads Fazel the top three, and it is not even close right now. Leffe 1.4 to the good over this man, Ethan Scott. Team Parker Racing has some work to do, and so does Fazel, who set that lap and reset down to the pit lane. LaValle back in fourth place, leading the pro drivers over Dylan. And that is where we stand. What will this lap be for Scott? It is an improvement of 47.592, but still 1.1 off the overall pace.
Yeah, Leffe in the 308 looking like he's really gelling with the car. And we'll have to see what happens, though, as the drivers get used to them. A lot of these drivers are not what we would class as the normal Porsche Cup car drivers. We always see a few names cropping up, and those guys really do scuttle up off the road. So I think some of these drivers actually, after, the 70 minutes driving around here, they'll start to get used to them. And that's P6 for Radu. 48.711 puts them lead in the AM category of the Porsche Cup.
Well, there you go. Radu picking up right where he left off. It was a battle between him and McConnell, and it still is, as Kolovaz now down in the back of this pack. Remember, Kolovaz did so well in the first session that got erased. It's surprising to see them all the way back where they are. But all things considered, though, this session a little bit tighter than the previous one, but I suppose after 45 minutes of qualifying, it should be.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. A lot of these drivers will just be learning how to drive the Cup car and really get on with it. And Olefe just running away with it as he's changed his car from the gunmetal grey that it was to a nice banana yellow. So at least we can see it throwing it over those curbs. You can see just sliding through some of the last chicanes. Will that hurt the time, or is that the faster line? We'll see as he blasts up to it. And it will be an improvement of 46.404. So puts him just about 8 tenths in front of Ethan Scott, who has been slowly chipping away at that lead.
Yeah, he sure was. It was a bit closer before that 46.4, but Ethan Scott at 8 tenths of a second off the pace. That's about as close as it's been. So there is some hope there for some of these other teams and drivers. Oh, it just looks so unnatural, Ryan, to see them take a corner in these Cup cars and they're almost completely sideways. But that is how you have to drive these cars to get the absolute most out of them. You are just trying to transfer that weight and balance it. It is, it's almost like a ballet.
Yeah, and that always seems to be how the Porsche drives the GT3s, the Cups, and to an extent the GT4. Though that one's slightly different, being more of a mid-engine car. The Porsche is absolutely about the balance. The fuel tank is way up at the front, almost in front of the headlights, and the engine is basically past the rear tail lights. You drive these cars very much on the throttle. You have to be gentle with them, and they change so much, does the Porsche. They're very moody. When you put fuel in them, they change the way they handle. Take the fuel out, they change it again. The tires are hot. Everything on this will change how they drive. They're very much a different beast to tame.
Well, you know what I was going to say is I was going to say I wish that I could get inside the mind of the man who decided to put the engine behind the rear axle, but I know who decided to do that, and I can't say it on stream, otherwise we'll be demonetized. So that's a whole weird thing, a whole weird minefield to have to navigate in your brain. But Ferdinand Porsche, though, however, what were you thinking?
But did you know the actual original story of where the design for the Porsche came? Because it wasn't actually fully the Germans. The design,
yeah, didn't they steal it from somebody else?
It was the Airstream Tatras. Airstream Tatra back in the day. They were like very Airstream styled. They had a stabilizer fin, and these were air-cooled V8 engines that would seat 6 people and do 100 miles an hour in the 40s. And they were terrifying. But that is what, when they were taken over, they were basically re-engineered, and that became the Beetle, became the Porsche, became what everyone knows today.
It's weird. We don't usually have to tiptoe around subjects when we talk about cars, but this is the one.
Yes, but like I said, Porsche stuck at it, didn't they? They actually had a couple of attempts to make front-engine cars, 944, 928, 914s, all sort of cars like that were conventional, as you would say.
I love the 944, just so we're clear.
But yeah, but no one seemed to like them. Everyone loves the rear engine cars, and everyone always says that they are very much a driver's car, even with the real life. And well, when you watch the Porsche Cups from the real life, you can kind of see that why, and even we can see it on our screen now. Tyler Jason LaValle just fighting that wheel. It's every which way, and you've got to be so gentle with these cars, but if you can master them, like we're seeing so far with Dylan, he's really, Lefe even, sorry, he's really roaring away with it.
Ooh. That was the 3 or the 1?
That is the 3 in the gravel.
That's a 3. Yep.
At what we would call, at least what a couple of friends I know, that we refer to that as a driver as the awkward corner.
Yeah, that very much is. By the way, again, the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that we've gained 1 car in qualifying. And so we had 23 before the restart. Now we have 21. And I only noticed that because I was looking for Kalavaz on the list and noticed that we had more cars than we started with. I didn't recognize the 19. Well, they will start in the race from the back of the grid, which is fine. They are a GT4 car anyway. As qualifying is nearly coming down to the wire here. Dylan goes all the way to second, 0.6 off the overall pace set by LaFay. It's going to be a 46.404, the current fastest time. And of course, Scott now bumped down to third, and the number 12 and 80 are the top 5. LaValle, I don't know. I expected more out of LaValle here.
Yeah, but they are just so difficult cars to master. So I think that Tyler Justin LaValle will get the grip on them in the race. But when you throw a driver who's maybe never even driven them, I can't say that I've ever seen Tyler Justin LaValle drive the Cup cars. So when you throw a driver into these, it's not like you even have a head start being able to drive a GT3 car. You are literally thrown in, not even at the deep end. You're thrown in into the ocean and told to paddle.
Yes, indeed. I think LaValle has driven a Porsche Cup car before, but I don't think it was here. I think it was like at Bathurst or something like that, something crazy. But despite that, of course, the difference, as we always say, and Blue beat me to this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's my line. Something consistency, something pro cars. The cream always rises to the top, etc., and so forth. Well, for Kalavaz, it was a spin in the difficult bit, as Mawson puts it earlier, but now back out for Team Parker Racing, trying to improve. He only will have just about this lap and 1 more, and that will be it for qualifying. The final minute for what turned out to be a 45-plus minutes of qualifying, where 25 minutes of it did not matter. It's like, whose line is it anyway? The points are made up, and the qualifying doesn't matter. Well, it does now, as LaValle has come back down to the pit lane. Must have heard we were talking about him and said that, well, if you're going to talk about me, I'm not going to qualify anymore. So LaValle in 6th place will take no further part in the session. Kalavaz now trying to get a lap in, and so is Fazal in 4th place. The TTC Racing Porsche now trying to move up, 3rd in class currently. Would like to get just a little bit closer to the front, even if that's only a lane change here.
Yeah, and it's not out of the question. I mean, it's about 5/10 off from Ethan Scott. But with these cars, with you can, if you have a slide, that is easily a couple of tenths. You have another slide, you've lost that half a second. So it really depends if you can be that consistent and just not slide the car. We'll see if he's got any time in the last sector to gain. Is actually trending up slightly, but will that be anything coming to the line? The last sector is probably the most difficult sector for the Porsche Cup. A lot of direction changes, a lot of late apexes, and you can see, there you go, there's a massive drift from the 80, and that is what I was on about. And he will abort the lap, and that is that slide probably cost the lap time for him.
Well, Juan here in the number 12 is half a second up on their time, and that's important because that could jump them all the way to about 4th place, and maybe if they pick up a little bit more, it could be 3rd. An absolute flying lap. You cannot make a mistake here in the final sector. It's so easy, a very tight and twisty section where you can light up the tires. Only 1 car in front of them, shouldn't be any issue as they come to the line. Again, qualifying over. By the way, LaFay did run a 46.119. Look at that movement, and it will be all given up, and the white flag will be raised, as it is so difficult in a Porsche Cup car. This 3rd sector, absolutely no remorse. What does the 814 have? Down in 10th place and will not improve. LaFay did improve, a 46.119, like I said, 9 tenths, nearly 1 second over Chad Dillon there at the end. And that was a spirited qualifying. We saw a lot of mistakes, and I think that is indicative of what we are going to see in the race.
Yeah, the last sector taking no prisoners, which was a shame because that car looked like it was trending up so much. It was almost a second coming into some of the final corners, but just that little bit too early on the throttle. You can see the cars step out from underneath them, and that's it. It is so difficult to regain that control of that race car once it does that. It will eat you alive if you have it. And that means now that they've got to have that for 70 minutes.
Well, it's going to be a interesting race. Well, let's set the stage for you. 75-minute race, mandatory pit stop. You must take 1 liter of fuel. Tire change not required, but will be an option that some of these teams have, and they might consider it. Most of the teams, I reckon, will not do as much, but also the ever-present issue that Barcelona is a tricky track, and with your engine behind the rear axle for some reason, it will be a very difficult day. You saw how much trouble in qualifying a lot of these teams had just trying to make a lap time. Well, imagine trying to race each other. And what of the Maseratis that seem to have it all in hand in GT4? But as we know, no traction control, no ABS on those Maseratis. It's a lot more difficult to race them than it is to simply drive them in anger. And here is your field for today's race. We went all over the place. When we first went live, we had 16 cars, then we had 20, then 23, and now we had 20 and then 21, and now there are only 20 cars left here. And again, there are 5 classes here today. There are 3 different classes of Porsche Cup car. Those are the green arrows you see in the number box: Silver, Pro, and Am. And then, of course, with GT4, the blue color marker, we have Silver and Am today. And 75 minutes, it's a long old time driving one of these cars, the Porsche Cup and the Maserati specifically, in my mind. Well, you might as well feel like you've been driving for several hours instead of only 1 hour and 15 minutes. Ryan Mawson, as we get ready to set out on the parade lap here, what are your thoughts about today's race? What should everyone be expecting today?
Both of these classes are just they are so sort of physical on you out there. What to expect? Well, the only thing I'm sort of wondering today, what will happen with some of the harder to drive cars, the Maseratis and the Porsche Cups? Will we see one of the GT4s finish ahead of the Cups? I mean, if you have a spin, you have an off, 70 minutes can sort of send you tumbling. But other than that, it looks like to be an amazing field for racing. I'm really interested to see what will happen with the GT4 AM class. Rambo looking very, very, very competitive in that class. And can those Maseratis hang on to that lead? They have got seemingly the ultimate pace in the GT4 class. But with that no traction control, with that no ABS, it just takes one small slip and you've gone miles off the track. So one to watch, I think, are those 2 Fordzilla cars.
Well, we're focused on Bargazzi there for a second, or Barzaghi, excuse me. A lot of color combinations there, and I'm not quite sure they're complementary colors, though I have been wrong about that before. I have been yelled at by the likes of Mike Noble about complementary colors in reference to some of his cars. I was rather convinced Mike Noble was colorblind at one point. Turns out he's not. He just likes all of the colors, and hey, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Well, 20 cars. Actually, we've just changed again, Mawson. We have 21 cars, like I said. Yeah, on the grid. Barzaghi, who I believe qualified and was at 2, 4, 6, 8, about 10th place, disconnected and has reconnected. That's why there is an open spot there in the inside lane, about 5 rows deep, 5 or 6 rows deep. They will have to start shotgun to the field now, and they will not get to start where they qualified. But beyond that, We do have 21 cars. It is a 21 car race. They are going out on to the pace lap now. My keys to the race are very simple. Folks, if you're in a Porsche Cup car here, you have to make sure that you drive within your means. These cars will bite, they have teeth, and they will spit you out. And any sort of issue in this short 75-minute race will be disastrous for your day, and you will likely be racing GT4s the rest of your afternoon. And if you are in the GT4 field, you got to watch out for carnage. There are far more GT4s. Actually, no, there's not far more. It's almost split, in fact. But in the GT4 field, it's going to be more tightly compact, and you have to make sure that you're giving space and you're challenging respectfully. And of course, if you are in one of these beasts, one of the Maseratis like Scola is, it is all about managing your braking and your accelerating, making sure that you do not upset the car. And if you do have to make passes today, which hopefully they will not, but inevitably there will be traffic, which is the final thing. Managing traffic is very important. Passing people safely is more important, in my opinion, than passing people quickly because of the short race. It's crazy to think of a 75-minute race as a short race, but in fact, it will be a 75-minute sprint race. For those of you that may be new with us today, we invite you to subscribe and hit that bell. Don't miss a single race, as we'll be back with you on Monday for regularly scheduled season action. And of course, on Thursday, you can hang out with Ryan Mawson, and I'm not sure who you're calling that with, Ryan. Who are you calling Thursdays with?
Calling with Christian, who today is doing the camera work for us.
I definitely knew that, but I blanked there because you'll get to have them on Thursday for more GT4 action, and of course the Friday Championship with myself and Mike Jones. And that is the week's activities coming up. So like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Don't miss a single race. You know you want to come and hang out with us. We're sort of the cool kids that hang out at the back of the bus, I reckon. But otherwise than that, I'd like to thank all of our partners: Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface, Speed Labs, Sim Racing GP, and Driver 61. More information about all those fantastic folks in the description. A few turns away from going green here, Ryan. You have to make sure you get the start right. You don't want to get destroyed down the front straightaway here. I suspect, though, turn one is going to be drama corner.
Turn one is definitely going to be an interesting one. And someone's had a half spin before we've even got going. And, well, I have a feeling that might set the precedence for these cars. You've got to be gentle with them before they get up to full temperature. You could see the drivers riding the brakes, trying to get any amount of temperature into those tires and into the brakes before we go green, especially the GT4 field. And the other thing, you've got to be careful with these cars. Planting the throttle sometimes will light the rears up on the green flag. As we go 2 by 2, waiting for those lights to go. And it's to the line, green flag. We are away for 75 minutes. The Porsche Cups all get away actually quite cleanly. No one's spreading out just yet.
Side by side now from rows 2 on back. Everybody looking to make a move. Was that a move potentially from the second row? It might have been. It looked like Scott was trying to get it done. But look at this. Look at this move. Could this be a winning move? It is not. Lefay continuing to hold out as they go line astern. And everybody now in the Cup field is going to be single file. And several cars in the background have now falling way to the back. Is that the 444? I think it is. The 444 for Fordzilla all the way in the back, running 21st right now. Now, was that a calculated move, or was that because they were forced out? I saw a car running completely behind the field. That might be self-preservation, as there's going to be our first Porsche Cup car hard into the wall, rejoining the racetrack. What a crash that was, and I don't know exactly who that was. A lot of unfamiliar liveries, but a Porsche Cup hard into the inside wall, rejoining, and now everybody trying to get into that rhythm and trying to maintain their position. Lefay out in front. And what a fantastic job. McConnell now leading in leading in AM in the Porsche Cup field. And of course, this is Kolovaz in the middle. Now, were they the car that had contact with the wall? Yes, indeed.
Just about. Looks like we didn't catch it on our replay camera. You can already see that the left side is all completely scuffed up, and that is what we mentioned. 75 minutes, and it's not exactly the way you want to start, because you've now got to carry that damage throughout the rest of it. And that is the 3 off again into the wall.
Oh dear. Well, it hasn't gone the way you would want it to go. Several cars. Oh, was that LaFay? That's LaFay. There was contact between the top two, LaFay and Dylan, I think.
There's the 308 off as well. As the GT4 field try and just squeeze their way through. And looking like we will have it. A replay. Was this an outbreaking maneuver?
Oh, it's a dive!
The door was left open, but it was just closed at the last second there.
Oh, I wonder if LaFay made it to the outside. Well, technically that's the inside wall, but I digress. I wonder if he made it to the wall or not. That could be the difference. If there's not a lot of damage, which there wouldn't have been a ton of damage from that contact, Ryan, I think they'll be okay. But that will be frustrating for LaFay. But for Scott in the 35, who is leading this race, it might as well be Christmas.
Yeah, for the 35, kept his nose clean, and that's it. That's all you needed to do. We sort of saw that the 35 maybe didn't have the ultimate pace, but you keep your nose clean and you keep out of it, you will have great results. But that's also promoted this man up into the battle for the lead, Tyler Jason Lavallee. We said that we were expecting better things from him, but we have always seen before that Tyler Jason Lavallee in the race setting can do some great things. And it's side by side into the GT4s. This is Bazagi trying to make his way back through the field after that early connection issue. Moving up, passing, that is the 79 of Jepson. Trying to just regain where he was. He obviously had a great qualifying, but a connection issue promoted him, or demoted him, sorry, all the way to the back of that field.
Well, it has been an action-packed first couple of laps. These are some things I can tell you. We have cars dipping down the pit lane. The 1 and the 308 are down the pit lane. The 444s of Ostrich started in the back, I think on purpose, after qualifying inside the top two. Scola in the 146 Maserati leads the GT4 field, and there was contact between Dylan and the leader, LaFay. And I'm pretty sure LaFay has vacated the building already.
Does look like it. We're going to get a quick race replay. And this is once again, this is the 444. Slight contact with the 19. And the 19 ends up coming off the worst of that.
Yep, this is the 444 of Ostrich trying to get back through the field. And we have a drive-through. So LaFay is still in the race in the 308 and has been awarded a drive-through penalty. Now, that's either track limits or a minor pit lane speeding violation. I wouldn't be able to tell you which it is because I didn't see it pop up on the screen. But no live stewarding for this event, so that's not the culprit. It is a ACC-assigned penalty, and that might have been due to a reconnection of some sort, because I definitely did not see the 308 on the board. Oh, no! Radu is going to have an incident here coming into the pit lane area. I don't think they were trying to get down into the pit lane area, but accident there as it's all absolutely kicking off as Tyler Jason Lavallee in the 935 continuing to try and chase down Scott. And here is Banana in that big, that just looks so out of place with all the other GT4s. The Pineapple Racing 959 is trying to track down Mikov and Rambo in front as they're having a big fight. But just look how, oh dear, that doesn't look aerodynamic.
No, I think the Camaro takes aerodynamics and simply uses brute force to get over them. And yeah, everything in Porsche Cup class kicking off. We sort of thought that these cars, they are difficult to drive, and how many drivers were going to survive this long race. And well, so far we've had thrills and spills, and GT4 seems to have, apart from a few incidents, so far been playing out quite well, but yeah, Banana all the way back onto that back of the McLaren. Look at the height difference in these cars. It's basically the Camaro is can almost look over the top of the McLaren. At least you'll be able to see where you're going, though.
I don't know if it was Ryan Gill or perhaps Mikhail Sundstrom. Somebody mentioned there's one car in ACC that you want to be behind on a straightaway to get the tow, and that is the Camaro. It punches such a big hole in the air that those are the kind of cars that you want to be behind because you get a bit of a tow. Well, what can you say about Lafay in the 308? They have served their drive-through penalty. They're still on the track, but they are the last car still running in the race. They have completed their mandatory stop, and so has Dylan, who they've tangled with. You have to wonder if those two will have words after the end of this race. Of course, it's not a championship race. It's just a for-fun race, and you got to give a hand for Lafay for continuing to be in it. As look at this, a lead change potentially side by side. Scott and LaValle, it was nearly a second a moment ago, but a few poor corners perhaps from Scott, and it has gotten to this point. LaValle's going to do it, diving down the inside. He's going to make it stick. The defense on the outside, and now into the hairpin. He has it done. We talked about LaValle not showing up in qualifying. Ryan Mawson, you called it, that qualifying is one thing, racing is another, and all of a sudden, Tyler Jason LaValle leads.
Yeah, Ethan Scott in the first couple of corners just was going slightly wide there. You could see the car was unsettled, and that upsets you for probably the longest corner on this track, turn 3. And if you are offline there, there is nothing you can do to get back to defend that line. It was just the door left open. But now it's everything for the 935 to do. He has to defend that spot and keep cool under the pressure now. But we know the Tyler Jason LaValle, we know the 935 very well. I think he'll do fine with that.
This cruiser car, the 814, that car just looks unsettled all the time. We saw him in qualifying and now in the race, and its sort of mannerisms hasn't changed. But this is a Porsche Cup car making his way back through the GT4 field after heavy contact there. You can see it all down the right side of the car and on the front indeed, but trying to make their way back through the GT4 field to get up back towards the sharp end. Don't have a lot of way to go, but still has to make these passes, and you can see just not having the grip in some of these corners. That's some of the GT4s behind them, and they pull up right to him on the corner sections, but will absolutely blow the doors off of the GT4s, even driving into the dirt. Look at this. Look at the speed difference. It's not even close.
No, they're just gone. But now with a couple of those going off, you can see now the giant Banana is trying to catch up to that McLaren. But in the GT4 cars, look at the speed of the McLaren. The speed difference, you would think, and that's the Cup car round again. GT4 cars take avoiding action and everyone manages to get through. But that McLaren is just one of the rocket ships in GT4. The straight line speed that car possesses is immense. But that does come with its own problems. One of those, which you'll be interested to see if that driver suffers with it, the rear tyres on that McLaren are notorious for overheating. They will always be hot, no matter what the temperatures, and that does mean that over a long period of time, they do start to lose grip.
Well, you won't want to burn them off here in this battle, but you don't have much of a choice. It's pick the poison for the McLaren, as everybody trying to get as much as they can and perhaps getting a little bit too much. This is one of the tracks that you don't usually think about drive-through penalties on, but it is possible, and especially some of the sharper turns that you tend to straight line. If you get them wrong and you go out of the limits of the track, you can get slapped with track limits warning. Remember, 3 of those, and then the 4th one will earn you a drive-through penalty that will be absolutely devastating to your hopes.
Yeah, and looking back off the wing of that, you can see this battle still not settling, and that McLaren already looking a little bit loose as the 959 of the Banana. And just watch this. I think we'll see it again. We get onto the straights. This is the Camaro. This has, if I'm not mistaken, a 6.9 litre engine, is it? I think some of the new Camaros, they are massive.
Absolutely
and
insane.
And well, bye-bye McLaren. It's just gone.
Well, they always like to say there's no replacement for displacement, but I'm not so sure in the aerodynamic ways of GT racing. That's very true. I feel like aerodynamics is more important most of the time.
Well, the McLaren is probably one of the most slippery GT4s. I mean, with how low profile that is, still pretty powerful car though. V8 twin turbo in that. And I mean, you can't get much smaller unless you pick a Ginetta or a KTM, and those are almost the micro cars. Those are the type of ones that you would almost run over and not seem that you have done.
I didn't realize that until just now, but there are no Ginettas or KTMs in this race. Do you have a potential reason why that might be?
KTM, I think, is a difficult car to drive. And speaking of difficult to drive, Masaki just trying to catch up to this field a little bit too much on the curb though, and running a bit deep. Continues on though. The KTM is incredibly difficult to drive. It's more likening to a go-kart than it is a GT car. It's very pointy, and a lot of drivers seem to not like it. And the Ginetta's problem, it requires a different style of driving once again. You have to be very aggressive with that car. But the main problem that everyone makes fun of it for, and probably its most notable feature, is the lack of speed. It does not have any kind of speed.
Oh!
And that's the Cup car getting loose. Which one was that? Was that the 18 again?
It was, yeah. And they have retired the car after 3 or 4 spins. They have hit their frustration limit. And that was not Victor Vondra's fault at all. There's nothing that Vondra could have done about that. A nice orchestrated pass by the Porsche Cup car, and then again, like we saw so many times, losing it right in front of Vondra and contact made. Well, they have parked that car for the day.
One cup down so far, but speaking of cups that are down but definitely not out, the 308 of Olefi slowly making his way back up to the back of the GT4 pack now. So still continuing after that penalty in the early race sort of problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a championship race. It doesn't really matter for anything but pride on the line. And, of course, if you are the 308, you want to beat the team that beat you. And I think the team that had contact with them, that was the number 1, wasn't it? I think they have retired from the race as well. In fact, the number 1 team. So Lefay has already beaten them, but again, still a point of pride is to try and climb back through the field. There were 30 seconds behind Le Mans in the 13 Audi. Of course, that's a GT4 car, but they are on the same lap as we're seeing Ostrich try to make a pass here, what will become the outside. This could be a very good move if they can get it to stick here and just hang there for a moment. But it doesn't look like that's quite come off. Nope, and not quite in there, but still very respectful side-by-side driving there between the two of them as Banana for Pineapple Racing. A lot of fruits going on with that team name. I suspect Banana, not their actual name, but despite that fact, they race for Pineapple, who I'm familiar with because of the Pineapple teams in the Diamond Drive Cup. But I digress. What I was saying is, Lefay, in 4 laps' time, erased a 30-second gap between him and Le Mans in the number 13 Audi GT4. So he has the pace. And matter of fact, he's already made one of the passes there on Le Mans on that lap. He's going to get back up there, and again, he's trying to get sort of up into the top 6 to try and see if he can get any positions back in the Porsche Cup class. Well, here is Banana.
And there was a
now,
local. There was a local waved yellow back there, which was the 21 that that was where Mikov has gone. The 21 McLaren spinning off at turn 3 or 4. Possible contact? But
That's what I was gonna ask. Is like, do you think, considering they were very close?
I can't see damage on the Camaro though. At least looking on the broadcast screen.
I don't mean to be rude, but how would you know if there was anyway? It's a Camaro.
Well, that is true. It will have been a light tap.
You can tell I am not a Chevy fan, can you? Lovely car though. Lovely car. I love the international branding here. Oh no! Ooh. Very nearly contact there. And who was that off? Was that that was Jacobson. All right.
79 just having a bit of a struggle with that Porsche. We'll promote the 21 up though in his class. So good news for the 21 now on a bit of a recovery drive after that slight spin. And Vondra now actually making it back into the picture as well after that slight contact with the Cup car.
One other thing that LaFay and the 308 has going for them, they've already completed their stop. And yes, they have come back down the pit lane to serve a drive-through for what I assume was minor speeding in pit lane. Because they definitely wouldn't have had enough time to get 4 track cut warnings in that time. And I know usually it's a stop go for speeding, but I think if you just barely go over it or you do something wrong getting into your box or something like that, I think you get a drive-through instead, I'm pretty sure. So it's very rare. It doesn't happen all the time, but I think that is what's happened in this case. But this is Olaf Lafay trying to get around the GT4 traffic and doing well to do so. They've already done their stop. They're the only still driving car that has done their mandatory stop. And this is not the easiest driving that he's ever done, trying to fight through this field, but he is keeping his nose clean, and that's better than you can say for some of the Porsche Cup traffic that he is technically racing, though they're nowhere near each other on the track right now. But we'll have to see where all that pans out. I think in the end, what I'm getting at, folks, I'm rambling a bit, but I think Lafay still beats some of his Porsche Cup competition here.
Yeah, if you can keep it clean and just keep it out of the wall. We've seen a couple of these drivers really struggling with the Porsche Cup, and well, probably only going to get harder from here. When the tires start going off, the fuel load starts becoming that little bit more imbalanced. It will start becoming quite a different beast. And that is another car that we saw, the 21. Got a drive-through penalty, which I am going to assume was track limits, because we saw them go off just about in shot, and then got the drive-through and has decided that is enough for them today.
Yes, indeed. Dropping like flies here, Ryan.
Yeah, we're down to 16 cars, but the resilient, some of the more resilient names will always continue on, won't they? As for now, it's swapping the battle a little bit. Banana, who's now not had that McLaren to battle in front of him, has caught right back up to Rambo. Not a pass 4 in class, but with so little people in each class, I think a lot of these drivers are just classing it as an overall victory, aren't they? And once again, that Chevy in the rearview mirror, you just don't want it there, do you?
You don't. It's a very menacing looking car. Not my personal favorite to have there, because he can be right behind you and fill all the mirrors, the wing mirrors, the reverse camera, all of it. So it's not my personal favorite. Fassel said that they've had enough, not of the race, but of following the 12 and the 105. They've come in to do their mandatory stop, and it's going to be a stop and go 30. And in that time, Tyler Jason LaValle has went off the track and had an incident here coming through the chicane, or not through the chicane, excuse me. That was that turn 4?
That's turn
4. It's coming through turn 4. He's had an incident, and that has dropped him all the way into 5th place now. Has that incident. Scott back to the lead of the race. The PSR driver just seemingly losing it on his own.
Kind of looks like it. There was a little bit of scuffing that I noticed on the front of that car, so it's obviously tapped the wall a little bit. And well, what did we say? Those who can keep that Porsche Cup consistent will prosper. And each time we've seen it now that a driver has had a small incident with the Cup field still being quite compact in relative terms, any kind of mistake will cost you dearly. And that has happened for Lavalle, demoted down into fourth place. But can he do his pit stop and continue on, continue the charge back up? It's never over until it's over. We've seen plenty of thrills and plenty of spills already, and we're not even, what, 20 minutes into this race?
Well, speaking of which, we're down to 15 cars now in the race as the number 80 has retired after receiving the stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. They have decided that they will go no further, and the garage door for the 80 has come down. 15 cars left in the race, and these two, Rambo and Banana, are fighting it out tooth and nail here.
Yeah, and Rambo, who really prospered from that second qualifying, obviously wasn't happy with his time the first time, has got a time to do it again, but look how close the Camaro will get, right under the rear wing. No touchy-touchy to be had, though. It's just trying to juke the driver out.
Excellent camera work here by Christian, showing you this is the front splitter of the big Chevrolet. Looking at the rear end could basically give an oil change to the AMG in front, and that's how close it is. You got to respect Banana here for the way that they're driving. They're driving respectfully, but also aggressively. But Rambo, absolutely not phased at all, at least at this point.
Not at this point, no. And that's half the battle when you've got someone like this. You know, they can move around, they'll go for fake dives and stuff, anything to try juke the driver out. But if you can keep your head cool, you know what you've got to do to defend against them and try to stay behind. But here comes Alefe. Could this be a bit of a change up in this battle? Sometimes if you let lap traffic through, you open the door for them. But there, the door might be left open. Banana looking up the inside.
Oh!
A slight twitch here from the Camaro. It will be the outside though, and Alefe comes through. Both GT4s
that's probably the best case scenario right there for Lefe.
Yeah, to get by and not get in their battle too much. That would be a scary thing. It's scary as a driver when you're lapping, especially in like long endurance races, when you know that there's the slower class in front of you and they're still battling. You just want to tiptoe around them and not cause any sort of problems.
Whoa, boy! I thought for a second there that Banana was going to get into Rambo. If you pay attention to that, there were 3 different twitches by the Camaro, and he kept getting closer and closer and closer. And I thought for certain that there was going to be an incident that was going to end in tears. It did not. Excellent driving. Do you think Rambo knows how close he was to coming to disaster?
Pretty much. I very much would say so. You know, when you've started to lose that massive car, it is such a horrible feeling when you're really trying to save the car that's unsettled, and you know that you're watching the radar, you're watching out the windscreen, and you're just getting closer and closer to impending doom.
It would appear as if the 79 of Jacobson has had a spin in the tight left-hander, but has gotten the car back going in the right direction. I don't know if they had assistance or not, but considering they were in a pack of cars, I deem it somewhat likely that that's what's happened there. But either way, that going the right direction is Michael Jacobson for the Racing Devils team. And let's talk about Scott for a minute, the leading 35 Porsche Cup car. What a day they've had. They were out qualified. They ended up third on the first lap. He saw contact between Lefe and the number 1 car that has retired. Got the lead back, only to get ran down by Tyler Jason Lavalle. It was driving away. 3 seconds was the gap between leader Lavalle and Ethan Scott for Team Parker Racing. And then all of a sudden, almost in the same spot, Lavalle loses it, what we assume was by himself, Ethan Scott back to the lead for the second time in this race. I mean, absolutely incredible stuff. Excellent driving by Ethan Scott.
Yeah, and we've seen that so far. Every single time that that something has happened in front, it's always been if you can keep that Porsche Cup car on the road. Or so far, both the people who looked like they had ultimate pace have had problems, and Ethan Scott just keeping it clean, keeping it consistent, and well, keeping it on the black stuff has yielded great results. He's got a 13-second gap to the next car behind him, so now he just knows that he doesn't have to push it. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. He just needs to bring that car home. But for 47 minutes, how long will that be? And especially when you start getting into lapping the GT4s, it makes it all that more interesting.
Well, I can tell you, Rambo thinks that they've been defending this Camaro for 47 minutes, even though that's not really been the case. It's been a great battle, very respectful between the two of them. And the reason I keep harping on that is because you don't genuinely see a battle like this go on this long without there being some sort of drama. Well, it has been clean, even in moments where like there could be contact. There really wasn't, and they have just had a fantastic battle. Now, they won't have wanted a fantastic battle. They would have wanted to get through would have Banana as they're side by side through the hairpin. This could be what Banana was waiting for, just a little bit of a slip, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and they've got it. But what about the crossover from Rambo? It isn't going to happen. Covered off and give the position to Banana after what was 25 minutes, and battling a McLaren first and then an AMG, and now through position gained and well done, as that will put them, well, they're still second in GT4 Pro or GT4 Silver, but now they're second overall in GT4. As take a minute to talk about Scoa in the 146, who is leading in GT4. Well, they did an excellent qualifying effort, and they've sort of been unchallenged to this point. Now I start to wonder if maybe Banana could be that person.
Yeah, it looks like it. If he can get away from the 10 of Rambo, you've seen just a couple of mistakes there. And welcome to the straight line. The Camaro really doesn't seem to have it in the straight line. As look, the number 10 just blasting by.
Oh, that is a heartbreaking feeling, and frustration and desperation might start to set in for Banana, because now you've been battling for so long. You have to do it all over again. And look at this, trying to get the run deeper into the corner, not coming off the apex is Rambo, but just there at the end, getting inside. It's looking like deja vu all over again for Rambo, as the position will look to be given up here. And I think, yes, indeed, position surrendered again, or maybe not. Maybe I spoke too soon. Down the inside is Rambo. It's the reverse of what happened last time. Excellent racing, but look at this. Barzaghi in the mirror now, getting involved in this battle as well. Blasting by both of them. Contact between Benghazi and Rambo. Three-way battle here.
Yeah, that is the Porsche Cup trying to get through the lab traffic is often just such a problem, and that is actually our leader.
Oh, that's not Barzaghi.
Barzaghi is the Aston Martin who's just sort of watching this in the background, and that's deep into the brakes, almost takes out. The leader does the Camaro, but now once again the 10's up the inside, but it will give him the outside for this corner, which is a long one. Can he hang it round the outside of this final sector? It's a long old way to do. And it looks like the 959 just has a nose ahead. He's got to not make the same mistake that he did in the chicane, which surrendered him the position before. And can he run away now? We've seen that 10, what it can do in a straight line, and now it's towing the number 2 ever closer.
Well, I got to tell you, that was a gut check moment for Scott. I do apologize to Barzaghi there. I thought that was them coming through because I saw the gap was next to nil. And it turns out it was our leader in the 35 of Scott coming through. Contact with the 10, and just about going to hold it here is the 959 of Banana, who, like you said last lap, gave up a lot of time on the straightaway, gave up time this time as well, but had the proper position and defended. Now, it will likely be a case of, can you hold it, as this is Barzaghi's team, Ballas Esports. Aston sitting in wait back here as this two-way battle has now become a three-way battle, and a brilliant one at that. But now I think, just for the moment, perhaps a moment to catch your breath if you're any of these drivers. And what a battle that was. That might be the battle of the race. And Scott very nearly turned the 10. We're going to see that right here. I thought the 35 was going to turn the 10, and that is so difficult. Who do you put that on? Do you tell Scott that he should have been a little bit more patient, or do you tell the 10 that maybe you should give it up? I mean, it's hard to say because you're in a battle for position in class. They're not really fighting anyone as Scott. How do you score that one, Ryan?
It is a difficult one to score. If I was Scott in the 35, though, with how much of a lead that they've got, I would have just waited to the straight and used the Porsche Cups, you know, the phenomenal straight line speed. You could just blast by a GT4, easy peasy. But we know that some of these drivers, a lot of them, Scott probably thinking that people might be catching him. He just wants to get by the GT4s as fast as possible. But as the regs go, it is up to the faster car to lap cleanly.
And I think that's well said. I mean, that's absolutely what it is. I've always known it when I was in the faster class that it is up to me to pass the slower class cleanly and usually as respectfully as possible. And I don't know if due care was taken there by Ethan Scott, but one way or another, the pass got done and nobody lost anything in that case. A little bit of frustration perhaps by some of the GT4s battling, but nothing was really lost. I don't think that there was any harm or foul that occasion, but perhaps a learning lesson for next time. Well, this is Nathan McConnell for Slime, and we haven't talked about McConnell much today. He was in our chat a moment ago, by the way, right before the race started, so he may still be listening to us. And if you are, Nathan, hello there. You're doing very well, in case you didn't wonder. You are 14 seconds behind the leader in second place, and the 105 has also had that sort of measured approach as Scott has, as now Scott is coming up behind this pack of cars, though they are a bit more strung out now as the 595 begins to gap the 10 a little bit. And down the inside will be the McConnell car, flashing the lights there, letting him know, coming through, and about as easy as you would like. Well, McConnell now, it becomes a question of, do you try strategy here to try and leapfrog or gain some of that lost time back, or are you happy being the last remaining AM in the Cup competition today, I wonder?
I mean, it's got to be still a nice feeling to be the last AM if you can complete the race. Obviously, we've seen plenty of the faster drivers fall off and making his way through traffic, McConnell. But it's one of those with the stops. Will strategy involve? I don't know. The car of Olefe, I'm trying to find. He had only a 37-second pit delta. But that was in fact, no, that was the last time. That was the drive-through. So, because it's disappeared off my timing board, I have no idea what his pit stop was. We don't know if he took tires or if he will have had to take fuel. But do you go for tires or do you not? It's the $1 million question, isn't it?
I don't think for the leaders you do that. Christian, our lovely broadcaster for the day, could you take me on board with McConnell in the 105 real quick? I'd like to see his wheel inputs. Yeah, this man is on a controller. That's what I thought. Look at his inputs. This is not normal for a car to do this. Look at that. See how crazy that lock is? That's a gamepad, I'm pretty sure.
This man be scary then. Oh, he's much more committed than I am. I mean, I drive these things on my wheel and they're terrifying. So to be in second place on a gamepad.
Thank you for that, Christian. Oh, contact there between the 935 and was that the 12 that he made contact with there, Ryan?
That was the 12. Just getting too deep on the brakes and a light touch from that. It is easy to do when when you've got to remember with these Porsche Cup cars, when you're in the slipstream of someone, they really do pick up some pace. So your braking zones suddenly become exponentially longer if you're having been slipstreaming someone for a moderate amount of time, which that back straight will have been.
Well, Carries will not appreciate that. I'm pretty sure that McConnell is. I'm pretty sure McConnell is on a gamepad. If any of you in chat happen to know better than me, let me know. But the inputs remind me a lot of iRacing. Believe it or not, you can drive iRacing with a gamepad and do it to fairly good effect. As Tyler Jason LaValle is going to pull over the car, and is this going to be a retirement for the 935? I think it might be, as the car is being reset to the garage. Now, what on earth could that have been about, do you wonder?
Possibly that the 935, just with that damage now and maybe not gelling fully with the car, we'll have to see, will the shutter door come down? Currently in the pits, still could be fixing damage to go out again, or it might be an early retirement for the 935. The Cup class now really thinning out.
Well, I tell you what, there's going to be some happy GT4 drivers that are going to get to brag that they beat some big name drivers today with some of the retirements that we have had. And also that will promote them higher in the field. And as a slower class, Ryan, I'm sure you understand as well, you love to be able to say, well, I beat so-and-so or this person in the faster class. Whether or not they completed all the laps or not, it's not important. The main point is that you beat them, and that's sort of what is going on today. And also you get a little bit more motivation if you are a GT4 and all of a sudden a top 5 overall becomes an option.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we've said the Cup, I expected a few dropouts in the Cup class. They are notoriously difficult cars, and Barcelona is really, it takes no prisoners, does this track. It's not an easy one at the best of times, and you put people in a Cup car with no traction control. We've seen it happen, and that was that. But for the GT4 class, for keeping it this consistent, especially the 146, that Maserati, I thought that they might have problems in the race with race fuel and actually having to battle and get by people, but no, they seem to have picked it up and ran with it.
Well, just having it confirmed by Daily in chat that, yes, McConnell is on a gamepad. He uses a controller. I thought that that's what that looked like. It could have been just severe latency and stutter in the network. It could have been that case, but was not indeed. McConnell running second in this race on a gamepad. I can't do it. I've tried driving ACC as a joke with a gamepad. Can't do it. I'll chime in with you, Ryan, what you said. Better driver than I in that case. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, it is. I don't even know how to, I mean, some of the fastest drivers that we've seen, some of the really fast times, people being set them on gamepads or such things as like G29s, and it's really, you can tell what good drivers they are. And that sort of it does say though that sometimes you can have all the gear and no idea, and I think I start to fall under that category a little bit, because there are some people in my league who will used to knock me 6 ways from Sunday, and I mean they were on an entry-level CSL Elite, and even then there's silver class drivers in a league that I do, and the leader is only on a G29, so you don't need all the gear to be fast. It's how much practice you put in.
I got to tell you, I used to get so frustrated in Project Cars 2. I used to run league races there, and there was this one person that shall remain nameless because they're still floating around in different leagues, and I don't want to admit this to them publicly, as Leffe continuing to come through the field here. But I used to get so mad that I had a nice wheel and a nice setup, and I was properly, quick at some of the disciplines that we were doing. And I knew that he was on a gamepad. I knew that he was having to be very fine with his controls. Because we know Project Cars 2 isn't the most refined platform, but to the point, there would be weeks where he would just go out there and beat us all by a second or two on that gamepad, and I would be so mad. Here I am with however much sim equipment that I have. Lord knows it's more than any one person needs, and I would get my butt kicked by somebody on a gamepad. And here as a broadcaster, though, I love it. I love that McConnell's up there in the top 3, fighting for a podium spot, potentially a win today on a gamepad with inputs that are not quite smooth because it's impossible on a pad, but still out there getting it done. So well done, you. And just don't race against me in Project Cars.
And didn't pick an easy car to go with. You know, if you were going to race with a pad that you would pick maybe a little bit of an easier car, but no, let's pick the Porsche Cup car with no traction control, a rear end that most times I say that you have to feel how a Porsche Cup drives. You know, you feel it through the fingers. Well, you can't feel it through your thumb, and still doing incredibly well, still pointing it the right direction, and still churning out quite consistent lap times for, you know, a full race pace car. So you can't really knock them. Still pulling away actually slightly from the number 12, at least this last lap.
Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Normally you're flashing of the lights there to let the GT4 know they're going around. That's the 49 car. They're passing a Vondra there. But it's just the inputs being as smooth as you can. But still, the alignment back to center is not perfect, as Richard here has had some problems all alone, it seems.
The 19 Audi.
Inside curb.
Just touches that curb, and that was that. And that is kind of the Audi experience as well. It is very, very, very touchy, especially the GT4 car.
Daly in chat says, McConnell beat me a night owl all around with a controller. He's got some talent. He's a good racer. Well, that's obvious, Daly. I think you're 100% spot on with that. Takes a great drive, in my opinion, takes a great driver to be able to do that on a controller. Super GT-esque, if you will. That kid is absolutely insane. If you've never seen Super GT, he can drive on any sim with a controller or a racing wheel and do the same times. It does not matter to him. Absolutely proper alien stuff as well.
Yeah, like I said, a lot faster than some of us, and I've got what will be once again classed as quite the overkill rig for someone who just does it now as a bit of an in between broadcasting and sort of screwing around with real cars. But, you know, you don't need all the gear to go fast. I've known quite a few people who say that they need all the gear. There's one person who comes to mind who bought pretty much the same setup that I have, but maybe a little bit more flashy, and then was still annoyed when I was still faster than them. And I told them it's like, well, it's not the steering wheel that makes you fast, it's the fact that how much you practice. And I think drive time in ACC, when I told him I had over at least 2,000 hours of practice time, and his sort of jaw dropped.
Yeah, I mean, it very much is that. I used to have the same experience. I had a Driving Force GT, and it wasn't even the new Driving Force GT that you're thinking of. It was the GTEX. It was the old one, and it had feedback, I think, is the feature it had. It had feedback. I think it only had like 480 degrees of motion or something like that. And it was loud. The belts on that thing was very loud. And I'd go out and I'd race people that had many times the monetary value put into their setup, and it didn't really matter. And that's the great thing about sim racing, though, isn't it? You ever watch YouTube videos and you hear people say how much your rig costs? It doesn't really matter. It's about you being comfortable, and that is the truth. If you're comfortable with your setup, if you're comfortable in the car that you're in, it's not really going to matter. And that same could be said about McConnell today. He's got a setup that works. He's comfortable with it, and he's out there banging in lap times, quick ones at that. So good on him, and good on anybody out there that has a less than stellar setup but still gets the job done. And we complain a lot, don't we, as sim racers, about things and things that don't really matter. I would say more than half of the community still have a pedal box that's sitting on a floor at their computer desk. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I guarantee you, we've all been beat by somebody like that as well. Sitting in a rolling chair with a chalk behind it, that old thing, the good old days.
Yeah, and I mean, like a couple of people have said, the point of a sim rig is we see Ethan Scott right up on the back of the GT4 as well, just trying to get through the traffic as best he can. There goes our leader down the straight. A bit of a twitch there, but look at the speed versus the GT4s. But the point of the rig is if it gives you the sensation of driving the car, and if it gives you that feeling, even once, even if it is just a G29 bolted to a desk and with a small shifter, if it's done that, then it's done its job, hasn't it? You can spend, well, like any hobby, it depends how deep your pockets are in it. You could spend God knows how much, but at the end of the day, is the money really adding to it?
Exactly. I have a good friend of mine who he said something that's always stuck with me. He said, "You know, when you buy a wheel, it comes with a desk lamp for a reason, Jesse." And I was like, "Oh, that is no truer words have ever been spoken." Mike from TTC in chat apologizing that he had to quit, saying that his pit limiter kept going off and on, and ended up getting a a stop and go 30. That's going to hurt. Speaking of getting a stop and go 30, Jacobson has gotten himself a stop go 30 doing his pit stop. The number 12 has bid in, and we all know LaFay pitted way earlier, but a stop go 30 for Jacobson in the 79 for speeding in the pit lane. Mike, that's tough to hear, but you'll get them next time, man. And so that's an unfortunate retirement for the TTC driver. I think we've all been there, though.
Oh, yeah, any kind of mechanical foibles. It just sometimes, I mean, like real life racing, you will have mechanical failures, and sim racing is no different. Sometimes you still have mechanical failures. We've had it before where we were, I think, 8 minutes away from a 24-hour race when I lost force feedback. Completely gone. And on a direct drive wheel, like a gear drive and a belt drive will still have a tiny bit of resistance left. Direct drive, nope, it just becomes a dead shaft. So I was trying to drive with no force feedback, and we ended up in the wall and losing a fair amount of places just because I couldn't feel anything. But that is sort of how it goes sometimes, isn't it?
Can you say dead shaft one more time?
What, the dead shaft?
Excellent. We got a clear audio of that, Christian. I'm going to need you to email that to me.
We gotta clip that for later. We gotta email that to
for personal purposes. Anyway, 25 minutes of the race to go. About half the field has done their mandatory stop. Jacobson comes in to serve his stop go 30 as Fulcher will come in to the pit lane. No problems there on the 25. And our leader, Scott and McConnell, the top two, have yet to come in, but the 12 has, and this is the 12 of Juan for pro sim racing, making that pass there on the GT4 car, as this is the third place car. We haven't talked much about Juan today, but he has been doing a fantastic job as well. And here is Olaf Lafay for full cup yellow in the 308, coming back through the field, now is on the tail end of the Porsche Cup field. It's taken him the better part of an hour to get back to this point, but here he is as he will set his sights on competition that will change his in-class number. 8 seconds behind the 12 at this point.
As it currently sits, yep, and you don't want to be doing that, Lafay. Been super consistent all this race. We haven't really talked much about Lafay. He's just been in the background, chipping away, working away, and through the traffic he comes. But 23 minutes left. We've still got, I'd say, well, you've got at least maybe 15 laps, 10, 15 laps. If he can do a second a lap faster than the 12, which at least last time around, looking at my board, Lefay was just under a second per lap. If he can keep that average up, then he should catch him.
Are you saying you've been doing the maths?
I've been doing the very rudimentary maths. I leave the correct maths up to you.
Oh dear, that is a very dangerous thing you've done there. But you are very right. If Lefay continues at this pace, they will get there. What I'm more interested in as well is we know McConnell and Scott have to come in. And remember earlier when I said that if Scott, McConnell, and them got held up and Lefay was able to do clean laps and get through the GT4 field, this could be a race again. Well, I've been doing the maths, and that's still the case. The truth is, Scott hasn't had a clean run of it for the past 40 minutes, which does put McConnell 21 seconds behind. Lefay, of course, is about 7.5 off of Juan in the number 12. And I don't know how far back the 12 is, but it's I think it's like 10 seconds or so. So this could very much be a race again near the checkered flag, at least for some podium positions for Olaf Lefay. So turns out that prediction is going to be true. And here is Nathan McConnell coming into the pit lane, pitting out of the second place position. Very important to get that car woed down, get the limiter on, and get the stop done. Reminder, only 1 liter of fuel required to satisfy the minimum pit stop requirement. No tire change required. And as far as I can tell by the pit times, nobody has taken tires as of yet.
Not as of yet. And especially with 21 minutes to go, you've done the biggest chunk of the race. So I think a lot of these drivers are just going to, if they need to put any fuel in the car. But once again, I don't think that anyone will have gone short. The Cup and the GT4 have far, far bigger tanks to do that 70-minute stint. And here is Olaf Lefay, just trying to get through some of the GT4s. Will he beat the 105 coming out of the pits? As we can see just on the right of our screen, the 105 coming out of the pits, taking the pit limiter off and getting back up to speed. And Olaf Lefay still coming down the pit straight. You can see that is the 185 ahead of him, just in front of the GT4 car. So he's done a phenomenal job managing to get this far up the field through the GT4s, keeping it clean. And now he's set his sights on someone who is actually in his class.
British GT fan joins us in chat, saying that on his phone, watching the end of the race. Well, hello to you and welcome in for the final 20 minutes of the race. It's going to get a bit spicy here for the Porsche Cup cars, as Olaf Lefay, who led this race early, who was later spun, has mounted a comeback and is now looking to do some damage. That is McConnell in front of Lefay. And this will be for what I assume in the end will be third in class, but Lefay will want to get this pass done now because he has bigger things on his mind. There is still a higher podium position and maybe even a win on the cards for the 308. Could you imagine a spin and win scenario in 75 minutes coming back through the entire field of cars? And I know there's only 14 of them left here. Oh, no, nearly losing it is Lefay, but saving it. Almost no time loss there, but nearly losing it. Could you imagine the comeback that it would be for Lefay if he could win this race? We have 21 cars he has had to drive back through. Now we have 14 left. A lot of retirements due to mechanical issues and, of course, accidents here today. So 14 cars left, but you know what they say, you only need 2 to have a good race. Well, we've got 14 of them, and a lot of them are inside their own battles right now. This the battle for third place. LaFay looking up the inside, can't quite get it there and get it back onto the power. Single file again. McConnell holding the line, and this is going to get juicy. A look down the inside, a duck back in line. It's getting very tight between these two.
Yeah, and just before we swapped cameras, you could see Juan. There he is, just about going around the corner. So Olaf Lefay, he can see this. He knows that he needs to get around McConnell. Lightly wide is McConnell. Can Olaf get on the power early? Still not having it. Bumper to bumper. A look to the inside. Will it be the 105 having a light slide as well, but cannot get up the inside? It is very much a one-car wide corner there. And Olaf Lefay still looking for the cutback, just trying to launch that Porsche Cup down the inside, but not to be. Will it be a move to the inside? Positions the car on it, but ducks back in at the last moment.
I love this. Daly pointing out, of course, this is a AM versus a silver GT, or Porsche Cup fight. That is very true. But that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme. They are going to fight it out. They are allowed to fight it out, and they will do. But it's looking like position surrendered after some fantastic driving by all accounts on both parts as LaFay gets through. I wonder if LaFay knows that McConnell was on a controller there, because if I wouldn't have saw the wheel move, or not the wheel movement, but the tire movement earlier in the race, I wouldn't have known the how smooth and calculated his driving looks, Nathan McConnell's. I wouldn't have known, though. A dive down into turn one, not going to come off. He's going to straight line the corner here. Nobody threatening from behind, but position surrendered. Top three now, Scott, number 12, and the 308, as McConnell now settles into position. McConnell has to know this isn't over. If they have had accidents in front before, they can have accidents again. Scott still hasn't pitted, but the 12 has, and that will be the next person they're chasing down. LaFay, that gap was about 10 seconds a few laps ago. It's now only about 3.
Yeah, LaFay, even for a podium, it's still a phenomenal recovery drive. Like I said, a spin early on in this race was almost dead last, has fought through the GT4s, through the carnage, through the retirements, and kept that car clean. We've seen a couple of small twitches, but masterfully held, and now he's set his sights on one, that 12, which is really looking much, much bigger in the windscreen. We can see the car occasionally from some of the camera shots. There is
I love this paint job. Juan Carey's car is so good looking. Something about that. The matte black with the sort of orangey yellow color and the white flashes. That is a well put together car.
I think that livery is one of the few that makes the Cup car, especially from the front, look more like the GT3. It makes it look a little bit wider. Whereas normally the Cup cars look quite sort of, they look a bit squished and narrow versus their GT3 counterpart.
Well, let's set the stage for you. 15 minutes left to go. It has been a crazy race. Olaf Lefay has led this race early. We got into a battle between him and the second place car. There was a spin, put him all the way back to 21st place position. And that's when Scott took over the lead. Tyler Jason LaValle would then pass Scott for the lead about 15, 20 minutes into the race. LaValle would have a self-spin, and Scott would retake the lead. He has led ever since then. Lefay has been on a charge, driven through the entire field, just took third in class as Ethan Scott from Team Parker Racing into the pit lane to do their stop. A few drivers have yet to pit. Scola, one of those drivers, the leading GT4 in the 146. Banana has not pitted, and Ostrich in the 444 have not pitted. The 444, by the way, one half of the Fordzilla teams with the 146 started 21st, dead last in this race. Now, we're unsure if that was on purpose or a disconnection that led to them starting all the way behind, but it was a tough road for the 444 of Ostrich all the way back up into a podium position, but they are now third, trying to catch up to Banana. 11 seconds to go. They're going to have 11 seconds to get there, with 14 minutes to go, they're going to have to get a move on. And the 146 is, or excuse me, the 35 is out of the pit lane, and it was a clean stop. So no penalty there for Scott. And here comes LaFay down the front straightaway. I don't think he'll be able to get to Scott, but I think he will be able to get to Carey's here. Only 1.7 in it.
Yeah, it looks like Ethan Scott has just sort of, he's had the best race he could have been. It says qualifying in this race definitely wasn't anything. We've seen plenty of the fast drivers really struggle with the Porsche Cup and the conditions that Barcelona and Circuit Catalunya throws at you. But for Leffe, just been a phenomenal drive, and here it is. It's now dropped even more. We're under a second now, I would say, is the gap between those guys as they come across the timing line. I think we're going to see a battle here within the next few laps, let alone towards the end of the race.
Yes, indeed. And while we have a minute, while things are calm, just want to thank all of you for being here on a Sunday, watching some Porsche Cup and GT4 action. We know this isn't our normal time slot. This is a very different race indeed. And look at this. Juan Carey's is going to kind of give the inside to Olaf Lefay, and I think this is going to be just about it. Not a fight at all. I think Juan did that on purpose, did not want to hold Lefay up, did not want to cause incident, and is willing to take what is still a podium here today and not let McConnell catch up. Now, that might be some very tactical driving indeed. 12 minutes to go. We'll have to see what the gap to Scott is. I don't think it's doable, but, well, Lefay has gotten to this point. Lamont here in the 13 back in the field, racing it out with Richard, I think. Yes, indeed. That's Richard. And is that Fulcher behind this group now?
That is number 2. I think that's...
oh, that is...
Barzaghi.
That is Barzaghi. So Barzaghi trying to lap some of the GT4 field here while they're having a bit of a battle. No harm, no foul to this point. But as I was saying, thank you very much all for taking part today. We hope that you have enjoyed today's race. It has been very interesting. And we invite you to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We'll be back with you tomorrow for the Monday Championship. I think it's the opening round of the Monday Championship, and of course the Diamond Drive Cup on Wednesday, and the GT4 Cup with Ryan Mawson and Christian on the Thursday, and of course the Friday GT World Championship with me and Mike Jones on Friday. We've got a whole week of action for you. We don't want you to miss it, so hit that bell, join us, won't you? And of course, a big thank you to all of our partners that make this race and every race possible. Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface, Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP. More information about them in the description. And while you're down there, why not join the RCI Discord, get involved. It has the schedules for all the broadcasts and all the races, but in addition to that, you don't have to just watch, you can get involved. Simply sign up for any of the upcoming series. We have splits from anything from pro drivers to very new beginners, and we would love to have you on a track coming up in a upcoming season. Well, with that said, 10 minutes of the race to go. I will say, and I will be honest here, I thought this race was going to be a bit of a snoozer, but it's been anything but.
Yeah, we've really had quite a lot of action to actually commentate on, and plenty of thrills, plenty of spills, some disconnects, some drivers just not gelling with these cars, and the GT4 pack, there's still little clumps of battles forming on, which what I really like about GT4s. You will always find someone who is similar to your pace, and even if the rest of the field scuttles away from you, you can often find a friend to battle with, like these Audis in the background. They're way, way down the order, still having a good time though.
Well, I gotta say, for Scola, we assumed it was going to be a fairly routine race. Well, they still had to run all the laps, and they still had to stay out of trouble. Well, they've done that in the 146. It's going to be a double podium for Fordzilla, though Ostrich would have likely have wanted to finish second. It doesn't like that's going to come to fruition. Looking like two Maseratis and a Chevrolet is going to be your podium for GT4. And I wouldn't have called that when today started. Absolutely not. But I also wouldn't have called Ethan Scott winning this race in the Cup car. What an absolute magnificent job that Ethan has done today. This will be a race that he remembers for a very long time. How many times did he have to retake the lead? How many times did the leader in front of him make a mistake when he didn't? And here at the end, he is going to be the one rewarded. We said at the top of the show, we both said it, Ryan, when they were sitting on the grid, you have to not make mistakes. It's so easy to make mistakes in ill-handling cars, which all of these are. You can't hurt yourself, and Ethan Scott is going to be the one that did not hurt themselves.
Yeah, he stayed out of the trouble, out of the battles and anything like that, and just kept it clean. And that is really well, I would say it's even more than half of the Porsche Cup life. Porsche Cup, half of it is, can you drive this car and not have it bite you? The other half then is how fast can you drive it? And Ethan Scott has basically done that. Maybe in qualifying he didn't have ultimate pace that was, but he's been rewarded by just being able to keep it super consistent, super clean, not getting involved in any of the funny business that went up at the front of the field. And, well, it's looking like a commanding lead by him, as looking like number 2 of Barzagli has got a drive through, and once again we think that must have been a track limits warning. They're actually out on the track, and no live stewarding for this one. A crushing moment to end on.
Now, will that be enough to let Rambo back by, I wonder?
It could possibly be. It will also have hurt any chance that the number 2 had to catch back up to possibly the 444. The 959 is in for their mandatory pit stop. The 959 Banana just about to stop and drop.
LaFay, they're overtaking some of the GT4 field. This will be the second time that LaFay has overtaken that AMG today.
Yeah, and it's looking like just a couple more laps essentially for Olaf LaFay. As it says, what a comeback drive, really, especially to keep it going that long.
Oh, mechanical problem for Ryan Fulcher for TF Sport. Now, is that running out of fuel, do you wonder? You have to think there's no reason why for anybody to pull the garage door down at this stage. Just a few more laps, finish the race, you would imagine. That had all the hallmarks of running out of fuel.
It did look like it. The car just slowly creeping down to the outside of turn 3, I think that was. Possibly running out of fuel, unless they were meant to put fuel in the stop and had a momentary lapse in concentration, or it's a very odd one. We'll have to see if that car returns.
Yeah, Ryan Fulcher down the pit lane and in their pit garage at this stage late in the race, but mistakes that you could have made an hour ago now creeping in. Perhaps maybe you didn't set up the fuel load properly. Maybe you burned more fuel than you thought you were going to. Certainly we're all guilty of that, and all of a sudden you find yourself 5 minutes away from the finish of a hard race and not able to see the checkered flag. And there you go. The garage door on Ryan Fulcher's team, the number 25, has gone down, and that car is officially retired. We can only assume that's fuel related at this point.
You would think so. It very much looked like it. It'd be interesting to see if maybe in the after drivers chat we'll see what happened to that car. But you thought maybe that the number 10 might get by Barzagli with that drive-through, and well, here they are, the number 10 and the number 2. The last few minutes to go, duking it out. And can Sam Rambo have anything? We have seen Barzagli have some great pace, but we've also seen how quick that 10 is in a straight line. And if Rambo can keep this close coming onto the straights each time, it might just start to erode that lead that he's got away.
Well, here is the leader in GT4, Lucas Sola, coming into the pit lane, cutting it close. 2.5 minutes till the pit window closes, and they are coming down And I wonder if Ostrich, when they get around, since they're both Team Fordzilla cars, if they will pit as well on the same lap. I would imagine this was orchestrated. Ostrich in the 444 for Fordzilla, they qualified 1-2 to the 146 in the 444. 444 started in the back, and I did not catch if that was a disconnection that led them to starting in the back, the 444, or if that was on purpose. I imagine it may have been a disconnection. I don't know why you would handicap yourself like that. Oh, well, I'm actually being told Christian's saying that there may have been an incident that we didn't catch, so that's also a possibility. Though I would have sworn that on the initial start they were dead last. Though I will have to verify that. We do have a replay here. So what happens here? This is the initial start of the race, and well caught by Christian here. The 959 spun the 444. Christian, that's an excellent catch. By the way, this is Christian's first broadcast he's ever done. You wouldn't know it by watching. He's done such an excellent job all day, and including that shed some light on it. Banana for the Pineapple Racing Club got into the 444, and that is what caused that. So from second in GT4 all the way to 21st in the race at the time, they fought their way up to second. So we've had 2 recovery drives today, Ryan. LaFay and Ostrich.
Yeah, it looks like it. I think the car that actually started last was the number 2 of Barzaghi. I think they disconnected. They had qualified second, disconnected, only to rejoin and find themselves basically starting right at the back of the grid as everyone had already formed up. So not starting from the pit lane, but starting right at the back. So they've had to fight their way through, and we've seen a couple of spills, a couple of mistakes, and that late drive-through for them sort of hampering their recovery drive. But for a lot of the other teams, a stellar job done.
I can't agree more. LaFay, by the way, is running Scott down. He's gained 5 seconds in 2 laps. The only problem with that is that there's less than 2 minutes left in the race. So the pace for the 308 Porsche Cup car is there, but sadly going to just run out of time despite making up heaps. Scott is on cruise control at this point. And what about this man, McConnell? He drove an excellent race. He's going to end up finishing 4th in the Cup car class, but it was a well-driven, well-fought battle. Very few mistakes from him, if any. And everybody did cycle back out after the late pit stops in GT4 the same way. Scola still leading Banana and Ostrich, the top 3 in that class, as McConnell, well, you pass them however you can, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like desperate to get by the GT4. We saw it actually caught up to 1 slightly, but I don't think that this will be pretty much the last lap to go, unless one has a problem on the last lap or GT4 traffic starts becoming a factor. This might be it for the podium in the Porsche Cup category.
Yes, indeed. I think you might be right. As Juan for Pro Sim Racing trying to go around GT4 gets it done here. You just can't lose your focus at this stage. Final lap, you know that it's almost over, and losing concentration here could be very dangerous. A lot of these cars and teams are still tucked up together, case in point. And McConnell here is right there on the back of Juan, getting everything he can. Is McConnell here. It's going to take a Herculean effort here as your race winner, Ethan Scott, Team Parker Racing. It's been a hard-fought day, but it's going to be one that ends in victory for the 35. Ethan Scott survives and runs a brilliant race and wins it all in spite of being surrounded by cars that out-qualified him, cars that were in faster classes. It's not going to matter. He is going to win the race. And what can he say about Olaf Lafay, who just drove a brilliant recovery drive? Second place, was 21st at the end of lap 1, or excuse me, at the end of lap 2, rather. and would come all the way back to finish second. And here is McConnell, who will finish just behind Juan, the number 12, coming home third. And McConnell, a brilliant job, the only remaining AM in Cup, getting it done as well. He will win Cup and finish fourth overall. The podiums absolutely should be proud of themselves there. All the Cup cars that survive should be. And here is Sola coming around. His competitors have already finished the race. Banana second, Ostrich third. And it's going to be a double podium for Fordzilla here. Perhaps not in the configuration they thought it was going to be in. But Scola will come around in a Maserati at Barcelona. And he is going to win the GT4 championship. No, it's not a championship. It's a single race. What was I saying, Ryan? I'm starting to lose my mind. Well, there you have it. The final finishers coming across the line. 13 cars finished today's race, and the results confirmed. Scott LaFay, Carnes, McConnell, Scola, Banana, Ostrich, Barzaghi, Rambo, Vonda, Lamone, Richard, Jacob, Fulcher, Lavallee, Fazil, Nikov, Dylan, Krusru, Radu, and I don't know who finished 21st, but those are your top 20 finishers for the day. Ryan Mawson, final thoughts.
Yeah, what a crazy race. It almost looked like McConnell was going to catch right back up to one there. Just ran out of time. They only finished, less than half a second behind them. But as that's always the case in it, time is a cruel mistress, and it will never stop. But what a race for some of these drivers. The recovery drive from Olaf Lefay was great to watch. Didn't talk much about him, but sometimes that's the best way. If you're not being talked about, it means you're just keeping your head down in the background and keeping it clean. And that played out right at the end, managing to bag that podium position. And for the GT4 class, the Maseratis just did such a phenomenal job. My hat goes off to them for managing to drive that car with no assists, that consistent. We were worried that maybe they might suffer in the race, but obviously the Team Fordzilla drivers not phased by a bit of hardship.
Well, there you have it. One correction. Apparently, the Maseratis were racing for Forza Italia, not Fordzilla, and I just wasn't paying close enough attention. I see that many L's together. I assume it's Team Fordzilla. So if that was the case and I made that mistake, I do definitely apologize. Well, if you liked lead changes and drama, then you liked today's race. It was all over the place. And in the end, it was almost a surprise winner as Ethan Scott takes the win overall. But a Maserati winning in GT4. It was pretty brilliant, all things considered. And one more time, just thank you all for joining us here on a Sunday, doing a little Cup and GT4 racing. We appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday evening to spend time with us. And we hope to see you around tomorrow for the start of the new Monday Championship as well. And of course, racing all week this week with Wednesday Diamond Drive, Thursday GT4s, and Friday GT World Championship. We hope to see you all there. But in the meantime, I've been Jesse Lee. That's been Ryan Mawson, and Christian has been the one bringing you the broadcast today. Once again, thanks to all of our partners. To learn how to get involved with RCI, join the Discord and join up, and we will see you tomorrow night. Have a great night.
Ta-ra for now.